Big yawn here at the beginning. Hello, welcome back to the Terri Strange channel. I will be reading this evening, continuing reading from The Antidote, Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood by the Honorable Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. Actually, I don't know that he's an honorable. I've given him that title in my world, in my kingdom, in my mansion in heaven. We'll just say he's got that title. And I'm drinking a very refreshing mango sparkling tea with rainbow jellies from my local boba tea place. That is amazing. So I'll be sipping on that throughout. I have drank most of it, as you can already see, but I had to put it in the fridge so that I didn't consume the entire thing. You like my barrettes? Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot I had it in there. I was like, oh yeah. That is different, isn't it? Yeah. Well, welcome, Stacy. You are first. Congratulations on being first. Where was I? Was there anything else? No, I was just going on about the book, Jesse, going off. Okay, so I'm gonna pretty much get started. Hello, Court. Court is in the house. We have Stacy and Court who's shown up and made a statement. Say hi. Yeah, be sure to say hi in chat. I will try to notice you and give you a shout. So this is interesting. This is called the Starbucks syndrome, and I think he's going to go into the epic fail that was #RaceTogether. And let me tell you guys, I was working at Starbucks when this happened, okay? So I had to be one of these baristas that had cringy conversations about race. And thankfully, where I was, nobody really wanted to talk about it. And I mean, they were pushing it on us, but we didn't have to. Like, we didn't have to push it either. It was very weird. There was this ambiguity about it, but like the real brown nosers really got into it, you know. Starbucks, what a job. There's a romance about it. It was a mess though. I'll tell you what, I've kept up with a lot of people I worked with because there were some interesting people. And it definitely is a good job preparing you for the corporate world, I will say. Although my current corporate job is much better. Anyway, so yeah, the Starbucks syndrome. The blaming mentality could not exist in a vacuum. The fuel that gives it life is white guilt. The guilt was fully and comically on display in March 2015 when Starbucks management decided it would be a good idea if its baristas engaged customers in a discussion of race. According to plan, they would write "Race Together." God, even now I'm triggered. God. On customers' cups to foster an opportunity to begin to re-examine how we can create a more empathetic and inclusive society. Ugh. Ugh. God, like, you know, like, just the kind, this is the thing, like, they want so much from you as a barista. Like, they really want your soul. It's tough. Like, tip your baristas, okay? Especially at Starbucks, because they're going through it. I'm okay now, Court. I'm out of that world. I'm out of that life. But man, sometimes you know, it's like when you're reliving trauma, a traumatic event. Walk me through that. Like, ugh. It wasn't that, I mean, it was bad though. And you have to understand, like, at the time I was living in Yuma, and like it was a total culture shock. Yuma is very culturally different than Portland, Oregon. So I'd been in Portland. I get this mad vision, decide to move down to Yuma where my father had moved. And my grandfather already lived. And then, I was just kind of like, got my own place, was kind of integrating into life, working. And then we had to do this like race together thing. And the racial dynamics there are so different. So different in Yuma. It's like, I mean, it's just different demographics for one. And it's a lot more conservative, definitely. So, thankfully, that contributed to people not being very interested. I feel like if I had been here in Portland when this happened, it would have been way worse. So I will say that. I do remember saying to a coworker that I did not want to discuss race or issues of race with these crackers. So that was probably my anti-white, brainwashing that I'd been through. I love this book that I get like as I'm reading and I like go through it, I have like my own, responses to things. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember saying to Johnny, I don't want to discuss race with these crackers. What a mess. He thought it was funny though. He thought it was very funny. I remember him like imitating me because it's like I don't think they'd met like someone like me either. I was kind of like a mascot working there in a funny way. Okay. You know what? I get that a lot. I'm kind of a mascot wherever I go. Like, there she is. Okay, let me stop. Okay. In a Time magazine piece, business authors David Yaffe and Michael Cusimano called the move by Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz brilliant. Howard, we love Howard, Big Daddy Howard. Howard. Kevin's got nothing on Howard. I think Kevin's still the CEO, I'm not sure. Just about everyone else, left and right, white and black, called the move absurd. As Adweek observed, the clumsy nature of reducing a serious, impossibly complex national conversation to a hashtag on a coffee cup has united Twitter users of all races in roundly denouncing the attempt. Oh, hello, Serge. Serge is in the chat as well. You like that? He says he'll be busy. Well, if you're busy doing whatever you're doing, you can listen. Okay, let's see. The idea would have made some sense if Starbucks management really wanted to hear honest exchanges. I was tempted to go to Starbucks to start one, but I knew the baristas were pre-programmed to recite the same lame talking points about white racism that the coffee shop crowd has been churning out since the 60s. I saw no point in hassling these young and clueless workers, especially if it meant holding up the people in line behind me. I mean, yes, that's the other thing too. It's not appropriate, especially when you're working in such a high volume location, to have conversations like that. It's also like, I will say this though, and I want to give credence and credit to Starbucks. They did not give us anything to say. They did not give us any pre-programmed things to say. They didn't give us any talking points, anything like that. It was totally supposed to be natural and genuine, the conversations we had. So there was another thing that happened when I worked there where they shut down all the locations and did like a training and like conversation piece because there were like a couple of black guys kicked out by an Asian manager on the East Coast. Like they had come into the Starbucks and they hadn't purchased anything. I think this was in 2016 or 2017. I'm not sure, but it was when I was with the company. So yeah, this incident went like international news, like it was everywhere that, and they were trying to make it into a racial issue, you know, discounting like the race of the manager who kicked the guys out, for one. I mean, you know, there is animosity between the Asians and the Blacks sometimes, but I mean, let's just put that aside for an incident. You know, it wasn't like an issue of white supremacy anyway. And then there was like, well, okay, so these guys didn't buy anything, you know, so they were just sitting there, meeting there, talking there, but they didn't buy anything. And, you know, you're kind of required to buy something to use their facilities and services. So, you know, the guys got kicked out. I mean, it's not, usually it would they would just let you do your thing, unless like the place was busy and other paying customers were being impeded by your presence, which I assumed was the case. He also, I think one of the guys asked to use the bathroom and was informed he needed to make a purchase. So anyway, they were arrested because they refused to leave, essentially. It was like a big incident. They made a big, you know, incident about it. Like they were like, no, we're not going to make a purchase and we're not going to leave, you know, essentially. So dude was arrested. You know, some activists in the community came into the store, were disrupting it, and it became like a national incident. And so the company's response was to like close down all the stores for like an afternoon of sensitivity training. And so we had this like conglomerate meeting with multiple stores. And honestly, like one of the biggest things that like ended up coming out of it that I thought was interesting was how common it was that the female employees reported that they didn't know how to respond to like customers touching them. And I had some male customers touch me in my time working in that company and like in other companies as well. Like when I was a barista, like it happened a couple of times, not a lot, but you know, it's not as if that thing kind of doesn't happen. And I wasn't always, I think, the best looking. So I just say that to be, you know, frank. The guys that touched me may have been attracted to me, or it might have been a power thing. With a couple of them, I felt like it was that was what they were trying to display. But regardless, I thought that was interesting about the sensitivity training and people talking about their uncomfortable experiences at work, or like it was the most common thing. One of the baristas from a neighboring store though told us that her family was like, she came from a family of like neo-Nazis, and she was used, like, I had no idea. I think I'd like interacted with this woman like in passing, but I'd never like actually like talked to her. And so that was interesting to have revealed, to have someone be like, she's from the area as well. And she grew up in this white family where, you know, they would openly use racial slurs to describe different groups of people. And they were very much against like race mixing and that kind of thing. And she was also, I think, a lesbian. So I remember her saying something about how like her family would be much more angry if she had been like decided to like, you know, have a romance or get married to a Black man than they were to have her be a lesbian. So, and then there was this like white liberal guy that kind of like took over the whole thing in our group. And I kind of was the secretary of the group taking the notes. And then he kind of just like represented us. And he was like, oh, I've had plenty of DEI training in college, so I'll just handle this. And I think the rest of us, and my whole attitude, honestly, it's funny that I'm talking about it now, because at the time, like all the customers wanted to talk to us about it the next day. And I was just like, I don't want to go there with this. But now I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. I think also because I worked there and I didn't want to give my real opinions, but I really didn't like it. I wasn't comfortable with it. There were numerous times where I was kind of like rolling my eyes or just, I don't like being told what to think by my employers. You know what I mean? Like, and especially, and that's really it at the end of the day. I don't like, it's not even my employers. I don't like anyone trying to force me to think like them or making it like, not even that. I don't even want to say that exactly. It's just, I feel like they're really trying to program everyone to have very similar opinions. And, it's especially insidious how this has affected like corporate America and business in general. Like so many companies have all of these different liberal, very quote unquote progressive policies and that kind of thing. And it can be awkward. It can be very awkward to navigate as an employee if you're not liberal. And you have to understand, at the time, I was not identifying as a liberal or a conservative. I was like still very much identifying as a political radical. So for me too, I was kind of like, oh, my attitude was like, they don't go far enough or that kind of thing, or just, God. And then I worked there through the COVID time too. Ugh. That was when I left. But man. But I loved my job, Stacy. I loved doing that. And I love having a job now. Work is wonderful. Like it's definitely, I think it's a productive part of a person's life. Obviously work is productive, but I think it's so valuable. For me anyway. I don't know about others. But yeah, there's downsides to it, of course, and a lot of people aren't grateful or even consider, or they don't understand the love that you have as well, that like enables you to do that kind of job. And I did, especially like in the places I worked, we had regular customers that I got to serve every day. And over time you develop, a level of concern and care for these people. You talk to them, you learn about their lives, they learn about yours. You have conversations, or you just also, even the ones that are quiet, you just appreciate that they're part of your community, So I don't know, there's a level, I don't think people really understand. I don't know, even like in my job now, like I have to deal with so many people, especially this time of year. Like it's, and I just don't think, a lot of the times, especially in these kind of feminized industries, which I would say definitely customer service is, like the level of like heart and commitment you do have to work in those industries and to see it through and to do a decent job. So I don't know. Court says hard work builds character, and I'm a character. Indeed, I am too. Oh my goodness. Stop, stop, stop. No, not that. Okay. Y'all, I haven't even gotten past the first page. Let me stop. I feel like this chapter is going to be triggering me. So let us proceed. But I wanted to just, my whole point in going off about that is they did not tell us during the race together incident what to say, what to think, they left it kind of open. I mean, they do have that language of a empathetic and inclusive society, which I don't think is a bad conversation to have. Maybe we could have it here sometime, because I do think a lot of people lack those sorts of, I don't know, tendencies. And I think it is essential in terms of living in a civilization, especially a country like America with so many different kinds of people. You do have to think eventually about having empathy and some level of inclusivity. But how that looks and what that looks like, I don't know. And I guess that's why we need to talk about it, or just let it unfold. And I appreciate that about America. I like that different people have come here at different times and impacted the country. I like the history of it. I like that, there's different influences. But anyway, social programming via coffee, indeed. Hi, Kale Samogi. Oh, and hello, Modern Gentleman, too. Okay, so had I gone to Starbucks, I would have suggested the barista and I have a conversation about Black racism. Oh man, that would have been fun. I had some crazy Black customers, man. I had this one lady that would come in and just say the most antagonistic stuff. And she went by Bubbles. I think she felt kind of awkward because, I do get it. She was she stuck out like a sore thumb in a place like Portland. And so I think she kind of had this chip on her shoulder about that. But she had, I loved her. She was a character for sure. And when she retired, oh God, I was so sad. I was like, I'm not going to see Bubbles anymore. But she definitely believed in racism, and she definitely she had a lot of anger, But anyway, if my barista had been well trained, he or she would likely have told me there was no such thing as Black racism, and that the only people who have power and control can be racist. And I would have had to set her straight. He assumes his barista's a girl. Shout out to the male baristas. I ran into one of them the other day, actually, one of my old coworkers, and he was like, "Come visit me." He's still in them streets, slinging them coffees. All right, anybody can be a racist. Racism is an irrational anger that inhabits your heart and controls you. For years, I have seen more of it among Blacks than I have among whites. In an article praising Schultz's idealism, basketball great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar served up the standard fare that we could have expected from a savvy barista. Wrote Abdul-Jabbar in Time, despite the killings of unarmed African Americans, despite the evisceration of the Voting Rights Act, despite Oklahoma frat boys singing about lynching Blacks, the majority of white Americans don't think racism is still a significant problem. His article disappointed me. Abdul-Jabbar occasionally makes sense, but in this case, he saw the world no more clearly than a guilty white person might. His article appeared the same day as the Washington Post fact-checker finally conceded. Hands up, don't shoot did not happen in Ferguson. This was obvious to anyone paying attention months earlier, but people like Abdul-Jabbar apparently did not get the memo. In fact, the Post gave the hands up, don't shoot a dreaded 4 Pinocchios for its flagrant dishonesty. 4 Pinocchios. I don't read the Post, so I don't really know. I mean, I'm sure I've read them at some point, but yeah, it's not one that I come across much. Then, too, no one eviscerated the Voting Rights Act. That's pure political propaganda. Requiring people to show the same ID to vote that they need to buy a can of beer is just pure common sense. And if Abdul-Jabbar asks us not to judge Islam by the Charlie Hebdo slayings in Paris or the thousands of other acts, God, yeah, that was crazy. Wasn't that crazy? Do y'all remember that? Oh, man. Okay. Or the thousands of other acts of violence committed in its name worldwide, should he be judging white America by the drunken chat of one Oklahoma fraternity? More disappointing is that Abdul-Jabbar knows something about Black racism, Black on Black violence, and Black on Jewish violence. In 1973, at the peak of his basketball game, he bought a home in Washington, D.C., to be used by his Islamic teacher, Hamas Abdul Khalis. Khalis had denounced the head of the overtly racist Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, as a lying deceiver. That was true enough to merit a fatwa from the Nation of Islam. Man, they're fucked up. Pardon my language, but I've always known they were like messed up, but like the more I learn over time that this, like, why does anyone listen to like anything they have to say? Why are they not like immediately, like, why are they sought out for comment? You know what I mean? Like, ugh. Pardon my language. I'm in a mood today. I'm feisty. Okay. In one of the most barbaric mass slayings in recent American history, a Philadelphia-based Nation of Islam crew descended on Washington and slaughtered 7 members of Khalis's household, all of them Black. This included drowning a newborn baby in a bathtub. Oh my God. Oh my God. Ugh. 4 years later, Khalis, who was not at home during the slaughter, led a crew that took 150 people hostage in Washington, D.C., many of them Jews who were beaten and stabbed by Khalis's crew. I'm pretty sure drunken frat boy chant does not really measure up to either of these assaults as a significant problem. That same month as the Starbucks escapade, March 2015, white guilt was churning the shooting death of Tony Robinson, a 19-year-old routinely described as Black and unarmed, into still another perverse morality play. The setting had a lot to do with it. If there is a loopier city in the Midwest than Madison, Wisconsin, I do not know what it is. For years, people have been calling the city the People's Republic of Madison. They do that here as well. Or there's like the People's Republic of Cascadia. Is that right? Yeah. But anyway. And with good reason. Having a very large university in the heart of the city explains much of the culture. Yeah, those universities. As state capital, the city is also home to thousands of bureaucrats who like high taxes and the great job benefits that come with them. Oh. More than 25 years ago, the University of Wisconsin in Madison prohibited expressive behavior directed at individuals and intended to demean, as though that would magically eliminate hate and violence. All it really eliminated was free speech on campus. It also empowered those who wanted to control speech to want to control more. Progressives, quote unquote, can never be satisfied. They always want to, quote unquote, progress in some new direction. That's true. Progress in the Tony Robinson case meant sending the officer who shot him to prison for the rest of his life without knowing any of the facts as to why he shot him. We demand that Matt Kenny be held accountable, be imprisoned, be locked up and charged with murder, and we won't stop until we get justice, said Alex Shabazz, 22, an affiliate of a group called Young, Gifted, and Black. To be young, gifted, and black. The facts that were known at the time Shabazz said this did not speak well for Tony Robinson. On the night of the shooting, the police received several 911 calls saying that an agitated Robinson was running around in the street, disrupting traffic and attacking pedestrians. Officer Matt Kenny took the call, went to the apartment where Robinson had holed up, and got punched in the head for his efforts. Imagine like punching a cop in the head. Oh, dang. I don't know how mad you got to be do that. An uncle described Robinson as a teddy bear, but he was one big mother of a teddy bear at 6'5". He was also clearly out of his head and unarmed, only in that he did not carry a gun. That's true. I mean, if you're like a fighter of any kind, or like you do any sort of martial arts, you know that your body is a weapon as well. If you know how to kick, if you know how to hit somebody, that's a weapon. But anyway. To save his own life, Kenny shot and killed Robinson. There were no witnesses. In the real world, people would have waited for the results of the investigation before rushing to judgment, but there is little real about Madison. Police Chief Mike Koval made the first concession. He promptly visited the mother of the quote-unquote victim and apologized before the body was cold. We need to start, as any healing or any reconciliation should, with an "I'm sorry." And I've done that privately, Koval told CNN. And I'm attempting to do that publicly. And that's the only way we can begin the healing. We can sort of begin the healing or the rift that may take years, if at all, to mend. The groveling did not work. The executive director of the Wisconsin Professional Police Association weighed in next. He tried to convince the world that Madison, Wisconsin is not Ferguson, Missouri, and that city cops had a strong relationship with the people they served. No one paid any attention to him either. Personally, I don't know why anyone needed to apologize, especially to the white mother of the black teen. Despite her own whiteness, Andrea Irwin described her son as another black kid shot by the police for no reason. Interesting. Interesting. The police obviously had a reason, but what struck me as more curious is that she would describe the boy she gave birth to and raised alone as black. Playing the race card for what it was worth, she imposed the one-drop rule over her own flesh and blood and wrote herself out of the equation. Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I don't know how white mothers of like mixed race children feel all the time. Like, I've known women who are, but I've never really had that conversation with them. It's kind of, I don't know. But anyway, my son has never been a violent person ever, Irwin told the media, conveniently ignoring an earlier arrest for an armed home invasion. and his attacks that provoked the 911 call. Like so many mothers of the young and thuggish, Irwin refused to accept any responsibility for her son's bad behavior. I am sure it never crossed her mind to apologize to the officer whose life her son had ruined. Like Trayvon's mother, Irwin may not have even known how far astray her son had wandered. Her multiple facial piercings and visible tattoos suggested that she had priorities other than raising Tony. Wow. Well, okay, but what if she, like, I don't know. I have somewhat visible tattoos, and I definitely, but I mean, I don't know. In this situation, maybe he's right. But I don't know. It's just an interesting comment. Anyway. As for Mr. Robinson, he played so little a role in his son's life that it took days for the media to find him for the loving couple optics that proved so appealing after the deaths of Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown. Like Martin and Brown before him, Tony Robinson bounced around from relative to relative. But in Madison, that was not an issue. Its enlightened citizens seemed to believe that the PC propaganda that one kind of family is as good as another, despite the mountains of evidence to the contrary. That is the kind of propaganda that kills. Indeed. Well, I don't know. The kids do resemble their parents. I don't know what you mean, Stacy. I mean, the biracial people I've known do take on traits of their white parents. It's not as if they don't. I'm just thinking. I mean, I know one woman, a white woman who married a Mexican man. I would say the kids look more like him, but then I've known like black and white where they're kind of more evenly blended. It really depends. Google Robert De Niro's children. Oh my goodness. I'd rather not, but if anybody in the chat wants to. Oh no, Court. No, not look like Ice-T. That's too bad. But I know, I mean, kids don't have to resemble you. I mean, what about people who adopt kids or, you know? I mean, who would want to look like Robert De Niro, though, to be honest? Just saying. Okay, so Matt Kenny had to be surprised by the rage directed toward him. To this point, he had been a perfectly PC Madison police officer. Just a year earlier, a photograph of him in uniform carrying a cake to help a colleague celebrate her same-sex quote-unquote wedding went viral and made Kenny something of a police icon in progressive circles. At crunch time, that cake carrying carried little weight. Little weight. As Kenny discovered, there is no black in a rainbow, at least not in Madison. Given all the guilt in Madison, any number of opportunistic groups rushed in to milk it. Thousands rallied day after day to exploit Robinson's death and their personal gripes. In the progressive rent-a-mob tradition, many showed up by bus, happy to get the day off work or school. In a major traffic-stopping rally a week after the shooting, groups demanded a quick and thorough investigation, an end to the school-to-prison pipeline, and, of course, an increase in the minimum wage. We've been collaborating with other community organizations to lift Madison businesses to a living wage. Michael Schuler of the First Unitarian Society told the media. I think in my last video, I talked about the Unitarians being pretty involved in like Occupy. So it's interesting they're showing up again. What rally in Madison would have been complete without a little wage talk? It's all the same fight, Bob Hudek of the SEIU Wisconsin State Council insisted. No, it was not all the same fight. Exploiting white guilt to demand a higher minimum wage may cost jobs, but it doesn't cost lives. The alleged school-to-prison pipeline is another thing. I also just wanted to say it's not only left-wing groups that bus people into places, because it happens here with right-wing groups as well. There are multiple times throughout the year where people will be brought into, like, more conservative leaning groups will have rallies or whatnot in downtown Portland. But, you know, they have to bust people in because, you know, it's like in the city itself, you're not going to draw those kind of big crowds. So I'm just saying, like, it's, you know, it's not just a left-wing thing. Stacy, do you have kids? Like, I don't even know, like, how to respond to all of that. Like, well, and Kale, I mean, yeah, I don't know what to do with y'all. To his detriment, Robinson was spared that pipeline. At the time of his death, he should not have been out on the streets. Just a year earlier, he and four of his homies broke into a house and got caught by Madison police on the way out. Robinson had in his possession a TV, an Xbox 360, and a BB gun pistol that looked like the real thing. In any other city, that crime would almost assuredly have sent him to prison and saved his life, but not in Madison, where white guilt often trumps common sense. Judge Josanne Reynolds sentenced Robinson to 3 years probation, and Robinson felt empowered to strike again. Ultimately, white guilt cost him his life. Come to think of it, it was white guilt that cost Trayvon Martin his life as well. Trayvon had the misfortune of attending the Miami-Dade County Public Schools, one of the few districts with its own police department. Dang, I didn't know that. Okay. I remember when they started having police on our campuses in high school. It was super weird. It was like the last year of high school, and I remember being super uncomfortable with it. I made the funniest face with the straw. I'm trying to suck up some of the rainbow jellies, but I think they're hidden under this slice of lemon. So I'm going to have to play around with my drink. Okay, well, anyway. To prove how enlightened they were, school district executives decided to subvert the school-to-prison pipeline by giving students in-school punishments rather than arresting them for criminal offenses. They did this even before Obama issued an executive order in July 2012 advising school districts to avoid methods that result in disparate use of disciplinary tools. The White House claimed this new initiative would improve educational outcomes for African Americans, at least if it did not kill them first. On the night of February 26, 2012, Trayvon Martin was enjoying the fruits of a similar policy. Instead of being back in Miami in a juvenile detention facility, he was wandering through the streets of Sanford, high and angry. On 2 occasions in the previous few months, school police had detained him for what should have been crimes, once for drugs and another time for possession of stolen female jewelry and a burglary tool. The police budged his record in both cases to help the department lower arrest statistics for young black men. Trayvon's high school did not even tell his parents the real reason their son had been suspended from school. The parents thought it was everyday mischief, and they left him pretty much to his own devices. Really? How interesting. Fueled by marijuana and freed from the consequences of his behavior by white guilt, Trayvon was likely casing the residential community in which he was staying with his father's latest girlfriend when Zimmerman saw him on that rainy February night. Unlike Trayvon's parents, Zimmerman got to know the real Trayvon. He understood there was no room for white guilt when you're getting your head bashed against the sidewalk. As we've discussed, the outcome for Trayvon was fatal. The outcome for the school superintendent, however, was fabulous. A year after Trayvon's death, he was awarded the FBI Director's Community Leadership Award in recognition of his work enhancing students' academic enrichment. Having learned nothing from Trayvon's death, the Obama Department of Justice took the Ferguson, Missouri Police Department to the woodshed for arresting high school students who had committed crimes. The DOJ accused them of showing insufficient appreciation for the negative educational and long-term outcomes that can result from treating disciplinary concerns as crimes. 3 years after Trayvon's death, the DOJ was insisting Ferguson adopt the very same strategy that had killed Trayvon. The media applauded the DOJ. White guilt kills. Interesting chapter. We started with Starbucks, and now we've moved into some other interesting places. Okay, let's fiddle about with my drink here. Trying to get me some of these little rainbow jellies. I got one. I got a piece of ice too. They're so good. I haven't had one in a long time. I had like popping bubbles last week. I don't know. Everything from this place hits. Like every drink has hit. And they've got such an extensive menu. And they also have gelato. It's like my favorite place in summer now. I'm like, just be going there for my little treats, my little thrills. All right, let's continue. So this chapter 15, Outside Looking In. The man peering through the window of his ex-wife's condo on South Bundy had a secret that very few knew. His father, Sweet Jimmy Simpson, had decided that the gay scene then brewing down the hill in San Francisco's famed Castro district was much more enticing than his dreary life with Eunice and the 4 kids in the housing projects up above Potrero Hill. So Jimmy came out, which was bad enough, and then he took off, which was even worse. He left the management of his son, Arenthal James, in the hands of his wife Eunice. But try as she might, Eunice could not teach the young OJ to be a man. OJ never talked publicly about his father's sexual proclivities. I can understand why. One of the worst traumas for a boy is to discover his father is gay. To make matters worse, Sweet Jimmy Simpson reportedly became a drag queen and later died of AIDS. I didn't know this about him. OJ had to know what his father was up to, but he probably did not want to reflect on it. Given what the world learned of Simpson, it became clear he had little confidence in his own masculinity. He was hardly unique, The absence of fathers in the Black community has left many a young boy having no one else to identify with but his mother or grandmother. And these women, intentionally or not, often turn their sons and grandsons against their fathers. These boys may not be quote unquote gay, but in identifying with the women in their family, they lack the strength and resolution to become the man society needs them to be. It is true. It's just, I kind of thought about my own father and how, like, the breakup of his family unit as a child, like the disruption, the impact it had on him. He really overly identified with my grandmother. And, like, no shade to my grandmother, she was an incredible woman who was really resilient and honest. And, I loved her. I loved her so much. And I'm named for her. So I feel there's an honor in that as well. But, like, I do think to a certain extent, my grandfather, they divorced, and my grandfather actually died very soon after the divorce happened. He was only 28 when he died, and my father was a young boy. And so my father ended up being raised by his grandparents, my grandmother's parents. And it just, I just kind of had that flash in here of, like, my father's own mama spirit. Like, I've known about it for a while, and he's passed away as well. So I forgave him, but, it's still interesting to think about it. Sometimes it'll come up where I'm kind of, like, putting things together in my mind as I reflect on life, or I'll read something like that, and then it'll come back to me as, like, yeah, like, that's what he was dealing with. And in his own life, his over-identification with the female spirit, had an impact on him that, like, but then at the same time, my father was a very strong man, a very strong person, internally as well. And then in other ways he wasn't, but I guess that's, not all men can, like, really conquer themselves, or people have demons too. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Orange sherbet. I like sherbet. I don't have it very often, though. This place has amazing gelato, though, for what I've had. I've only had 2 flavors. I had their papaya and their peach. And they also do, like, the waffle, like where they serve the gelato up in a, like, bubble waffle, and then they'll put, like, toppings in it, and they have all, like, they'll do the, like, bubble tea popping, or toppings, so you can get popping bubbles, or, like, boba, or jellies, or whipped cream, other stuff I'm not sure about, but yeah. Quartz never had gelato. Oh no. Never had gelato. Okay. Well, anyway. Dr. David Gutman, a psychology professor at Northwestern University, was the very rare academic to talk about what went wrong in Simpson's early life. He believes that every boy needs a true patriarch in his life. I was fortunate to have one in my grandfather. At Bond, we teach young men to become patriarchs. One fellow, Marquis, entered our counseling program because he had had enough of the empty bravado of false masculinity. That's so interesting. I do think it's interesting program, and just how it's impacting men specifically. Well, anyway, he did well in the program and summed up his accomplishment. I am so glad I am a man, he told me. I love being a man, not the man, a man. Simpson, like so many young boys today, did not have a patriarch in his life, at least not when he needed it most. According to Gutman, it is the patriarch who shows a boy how to move beyond his mother's apron strings and into the world as a mature young man, one capable of disciplining himself and making decisions with long-term impact. Boys without such a patriarch find what Gutman calls less trustworthy ways to distance themselves from their mothers. Physical distance, says Gutman, they achieve by flight, from the mother's home to the streets, to the fighting gangs that rule them, and at the end of the day, to the all-male fraternity of the penitentiary. They achieve social distance by moving out of the mother's cultural world and off her scale of values. In Simpson's case, he would bring that scale of values down with him. In the 1960s, as Simpson struggled to come of age, many other young black males were finding themselves without fathers as well. He roamed with several of them in a street gang known as the Persian Warriors. These children, writes Gutman, particularly need fathers who are different from their estimable mothers in equally admirable ways, tough without being macho brutes, stern without being petty tyrants, and yes, affectionate, but on the whole, less nurturing than their wives. In California in the 1960s, there was a growing shortage of such men. A shortage of them now. Why their numbers were diminishing is a mystery only to the alchemists, whose formulas were responsible for the epidemic of fatherlessness. To all the world, Simpson gave the impression that he could escape the traps that ensnare young black men. His immense athletic skills attracted attention when he was an adolescent, including that of baseball great Willie Mays. Mays mentored Simpson during his teen years and lured him from the gang life into which he was descending. In college and in the pros, Simpson had coaches who could set his goals and steer him toward them. With that daily discipline that all boys crave, Simpson flourished. Still, there was a void in Simpson's life, and he knew it. I resented his absence, especially when I became a teenager and was trying to find out who I was, he said of his father in a Parents Magazine interview in 1977. I really needed a man around then for guidance. I get along with my father now, but it's taken years for me to come to terms with my feelings. As time would tell, he never did come to terms. The troubles of a poorly fathered son, says Gutman, can afflict not only his childhood and adolescence, but his later years as well. Never was this truer than in the case of O.J. At 19, Simpson married his high school sweetheart, a young black woman named Marguerite Whitley. He knew more or less what was expected of him as a husband and father, but he did not have the wherewithal to become the patriarch that all men aspire to be. A deeply Christian woman, Marguerite tried to keep her husband on the straight and narrow. Straight and narrow. Excuse me. Hello, Yoda. Let's see. But he was young and immature, and the world was tempting. Still, Simpson never hit her. If he did, Marguerite would later tell Barbara Walters, he would have got a frying pan upside his head. There was just no way that I would allow that to happen to me. I mean, that's the other thing too about these kind of relationships. People only do what you allow. You know. So, I mean, and men will test you. Like, That's the other thing about it as well. Like, you have to stand your ground and not let people treat you anyway, because if you do, then they just will. So I think that's interesting insight that she kind of gives here. Like, men are less likely to, I mean, I don't even want to say like men, but like somebody who's, has a proclivity for violence isn't going to be violent with every person. There are ways that you make yourself into a more, convenient target or victim. So just interesting insight, or they might know that they'll get retaliated against, like that you have the kind of spirit that won't take that kind of, treatment. 3 years after their marriage, the couple separated. They reconciled, but 3 years later, Marguerite asked her lawyer to start divorce proceedings. By this time, the couple already had 2 children. The divorce did not go through, and the family moved back to California in 1977. Now 30 years old, and at the top of his game, Simpson began casting about for someone younger and whiter than Marguerite, and found her at a nightclub called Daisy. The 18-year-old waitress, Nicole Brown, was bold and beautiful, as much a symbol perhaps of the white man's privilege as a new Ferrari or a gated home in Brentwood. Brown and Simpson began dating that year, the same year his 3rd child, Aaron, was born. He made little effort to hide his relationship from his friends or even Marguerite. The year 1979 was Simpson's last as a professional athlete. It was not a happy one. His family was falling apart. His unhappy wife reportedly was threatening to hurt him. Isn't that a bitch? His black wife, got him scared, is physically threatening him, and then he goes and he gets this white woman, beats the hell out of her, and kills her. Oh, really? That's so nice. I mean, who doesn't want to look like her? I mean, I'm of that generation. I was a teen when, Amelie came out and everyone got that ridiculous bob, And I might do that bob again, if I ever have to cut my hair short. I'm like, we might do it again. It's a look. Oh, man, he got you, modern gentleman. Okay, anyway. The year okay, let's see. Divorce loomed, and most tragically of all, Aaron, not yet 2, drowned in the family swimming pool. Oh my God. Simpson found no relief that year on the football field, with him sitting on the bench with injuries for much of the season. The San Francisco 49ers set a record for most games lost, in which they held a lead, 12. They would win only 2 games all season. At season's end, removed from the necessary disciplines of the locker room, Simpson was on his own. He was not ready. He never would be. Yet to all but those closest of observers, he gave no sign of the rage that abandoned children almost always feel. In 1985, Simpson and Brown married. They would have 2 children together, Sydney and Justin, but their union would not be one of wedded bliss. Their troubles began well before their marriage. At some unspecified point before their wedding, Nicole sent O.J. Simpson a letter that was submitted in evidence during Simpson's civil trial for the wrongful deaths of Nicole and Ron Goldman. It speaks volumes about the kind of unresolved problems that abandonment causes. I assumed that your recurring nasty attitude and mean streak was to cover up your cheating and general disrespect for women and a lack of manners. Nicole wrote of the premarital years. She had assumed that once they were married, his behavior would change. That is ridiculous. Why? If he's acting that way before he's made a commitment to you, why on earth do you think he would be better when he's got you locked down with kids? I mean, women be delusional out here. Like, they be delusional. And they're addicted to it too. They're like addicted to that nonsense. It did. It got worse. I wanted to be a wonderful wife, Nicole wrote. I thought it was finally going to be you and me. You wanted a baby, so you said, and I wanted a baby. Then with each pound I gained, you were terrible. You gave me dirty looks, looks of disgust, and said mean things to me at times about my appearance. Walked out on me and lied to me. Nicole apparently worked furiously to get back in shape after Sydney's birth, but it did no good. Simpson had selected her to be his trophy, the female equivalent of a Ferrari, the symbol of his status in the world. She had to look not just good, but great all the time. For a new mother, this was not possible. Simpson was less than understanding. Nicole wrote, You beat the holy hell out of me. And we lied at the x-ray lab and said I fell off a bike, remember? Nicole wanted more from Simpson than he was capable of delivering. Like many young men who grew up as he did, Simpson had a love-hate relationship with women that traced back to his ambivalent relationship with his mother. He needed a woman to fill the void in his life, but never having seen a mature relationship between a man and a woman up close, he deeply resented the expectations his wife put upon him, and he cheated at will. A white wife like Nicole was particularly vulnerable because she had not been hardened by experience. She expected OJ to be decent, but that just tempted him to flaunt his indecency. At the same time, Simpson so feared the emptiness and unhappiness he felt when alone that he could never quite let the woman go. Nicole felt the whiplash. At one point in their marriage, she called the police to save my life. As best she could, however, she kept the story out of the media, in part to preserve the image of my wonderful life with the superstar, that wonderful man, O.J. Simpson, the father of my kids. Nicole believed the media would side with her husband. In 1992, the couple divorced. Justin Simpson was 3. He would get to live the life of a fatherless boy, much as O.J. had, but even more traumatically. 2 years later, he would lose his mother as well. Her murder would shock everyone but Nicole and her closest confidants. She saw it coming. Even after their divorce, Simpson continued to hound her. Yeah, I mean, I called into the Anchor Baby about this after O.J. Simpson died because people were saying he wasn't guilty, and I was like, nah, man. Nicole, was reporting him stalking her, he had threatened her multiple times. He would show up she reported she would go to Payless Shoes and he would be following her and show up there, or just random places she would go. He would be there, and he was escalating, for a long time, and he did tell her that he would kill her at some point, or I don't know that he told her that, but she had said that she knew he would kill her. She knew it was going to happen. Yeah, she said that. She went, I know, Stacy, but it was in a report to her, a conversation she had with her mother, a few days before it happened. And then she also had called a domestic violence shelter the day before or that week. I'd have to look at what I was reading. It was Andrea Dworkin's detailing of the case, but I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but yeah, it sounds pretty gruesome. Just what I remember seeing and picking up, It was one of those early cases in the news where, you know, anyway. But yeah, this is Got It by Stacey. Yeah. I mean, hey, don't act like you've never shopped at a Payless. Like you've never hopped in there and wondered. I mean, I had some great shoes I got at Payless. Now I don't even know where one is. Like they used to be big. They were a big deal. And they would have good deals, and like they had some good lines of shoes, They're like really cheapy shoes weren't good, but you could get a decent looking pair of shoes that were, semi-professional, or that were professional, or they had a good line of shoes that were slip resistant. It's slip resistant. So they made it kind of easy to get like nondescript shoes for like working in kitchens, which I needed when I was young and doing that. So they were good for like, work shoes. They weren't the best work shoes, but they were affordable to me at the time. And they, lasted enough and they looked good enough. They had a lot of styles. I miss my Payless. I wish it was back open downtown. That it had that whole area where the Payless used to be. It's just been so sad since they went. Now the Rite Aid is gone. That was my old work area. I miss that. I feel like if I were married to a millionaire pro athlete, I still would like I'd still like, why pay more if you don't have to? Like, or, I would also just like to shop, and I would go in anywhere. Like, I don't know. But I think that's like, maybe that's just my mindset. I mean, I probably want to get decent quality stuff, but yeah, I don't think like I would not be interested in like hopping in a Payless, especially like, if you're, I mean, throughout the day, you don't have anything to do. If one's nearby, like, or maybe she wasn't picking something for herself, Not yet. One day, Point Fire. One day. One day. Keep speaking it into existence. I'll get there. Yeah. I mean, right, Tar Baby. I don't want to pay more money if I don't have to. And I don't, I mean, the more money I have, the more money I have to, choose. I don't know. I just, it's not something, I guess. I like nice clothing. I like quality clothing for sure. But that doesn't mean I would never, I would never buy like a cheaper pair of shoes or go into like a place like Payless or like, what do they have? Ross or TJ Maxx. Right, exactly, G. John Pa. Exactly. Why not? Why not? What kind of shoes would I get if I could get them for free? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. There were these really nice boots that I saw when I went into Yves Saint Laurent. They were out of my budget. There was no way I was going to buy them. Like, but oh man, I would want those shoes. But I don't know. I don't really spend a lot of time looking at designers or that. I mean, sometimes I do, but I don't know. I really don't know. And I have some nice shoes. You know what? I do have a pair of flu bogs though that I bought that don't work. They don't fit right. So I have to sell those. I don't know. Did they come with a lip? Excuse me? No. No, they definitely did not. What are you implying? Okay, so let's see. In Okay, even after their divorce, Simpson continued to hound her, to haunt her life. Friends said he was still obsessed with her despite his having a steady girlfriend of his own. Even though they would date occasionally during this period, Nicole never lost her fear of Simpson, and with good reason. On the night of October 25th, 1993, less than a year before her death, Simpson broke the back door of the house and stormed in. Nicole called the police. My ex-husband has just broken into my house and he's ranting and raving outside the front yard, Nicole told the dispatcher. When asked if he was drunk, she answered, no, but he's crazy. As Nicole explained, this was one of the many times she had to call the police. Please leave, she begged Simpson, worried that the two children sleeping upstairs would be dragged into the middle of the disturbance. I'm leaving with my two effing fists is when I'm leaving. Simpson can be heard saying, you ain't got to worry about me anymore. Nicole obviously had a lot to worry about. I've talked before about the emptiness of men like Simpson. Here he was, wealthy, well-loved by the public, still in great physical shape, single, and capable of luring half the women in California with a snap of his fingers. And yet he was hollow inside. A man with a big house and no home, pushing 50 but living like a bachelor. Not the patriarch all men aspire to be. Lacking confidence and still controlled by an anger he did not even understand, Simpson raged inside. Like so many black men, even ones held in high esteem by people of all races, he turned his anger toward white people. It did not surprise me that he beat his white wife, but not his black one. Nicole was a softer, more inviting target. A little more surprising was that he was more jealous of white men than black ones. The fact that white men might be seeing his ex-wife made him literally crazy. When he stormed Nicole's house that October night in 1993, he raged about a man called Keith, some inconsequential white guy Nicole was seeing some time back. It made him wild with rage, too, when he saw Ron Goldman, a 25-year-old waiter at the nearby Mezzaluna restaurant, driving the white Ferrari he had given Nicole, now 35, as a present. Dang, Nicole! Brand, I said it was Yves Saint Laurent. I don't know. What do you mean? Yoda! Goodness gracious. What am I going to do? $25. God, I didn't know. I thought he was older. I didn't really look much into Ron Goldman. God, that's sad. 25-year-old waiter. And how sad for her. She's 35 and she's like dating a younger man who's a waiter. I mean, she must have been so like desperate for like just affection, you know? John Paul says, that's a good insight, Yoda. Is it though? Is it good? Is it just an insight? I don't think it's good. I don't know what's good about that. I mean, really, there's no reason and there's no excuse at all ever for a man, regardless of what race he is, to treat a woman that way. It's no, like, I don't care what race he is. That's not what they get. And there's plenty of white men who are violent with women and kill women, and women are more likely to be killed by men of their own race, period. So, or anything else, just by proximity. So, no, I don't think a woman who is white who gets what a black man deserves or just gets, like that kind of statement, I disavow that statement. It's not what they get. If it happens, it's horrible. That's what I'm saying. And it's not deserved in any respect. People should be treated the right way always. It's interesting too. Like, she's a trophy to him. She was a trophy, but yet he did not treat her as such. It's just interesting. On June 11th, 1994, the last day of her life, Nicole and others in the Brown family attended a dance recital for Nicole's daughter, Sydney, now 9. When Simpson arrived, the Browns gave him the cold shoulder. Having arrived late, he could not find a seat, and he brooded visibly. Even if he could not give a voice to it, something about that recital must have reminded him that he had failed as a father. He recognized again how estranged he had become from these white people with whom he had once been close. They did not invite him to dinner afterward with his children. By all accounts, that dinner was a happy one. The Browns were quietly celebrating the fact that Nicole had gotten OJ out of her life, or so she thought. Possibly as a pretext, Nicole had Goldman bring her home some glasses her mother had left behind. While the children slept upstairs, she awaited Goldman below. Oh my. I don't know. What happened in the hours that followed has never been truthfully told, only Simpson remains alive to tell the story. From what I know of his history and the details of the case, I can imagine what happened. I can see Simpson lurking outside the home, seething with a fury he could not explain even to himself. He had plenty of money, a gorgeous white girlfriend, great health, tons of friends, but a festering anger that made everything else seem like nothing. Like so many men deprived of fathers, he was, in a way, always on the outside looking in, unable or unwilling to see himself for who he was. He could only see who he was not. As comfortable as he seemed to be in the white world, he had been exposed, just as I had, to those same voices all his life, telling him where to channel his anger. I never exploded quite as he did, but before I forgave my parents and purged my soul, I came close. I imagined Simpson looking through the window and seeing Nicole entertaining a white man more than 20 years younger than he was, and he blew like a volcano, all that rage spewing out. Dr. Gutman makes the case that Simpson gave the appearance of having matured, but as a desperate final attempt at asserting his masculinity, he turned as recklessly violent as a street thug and slashed both Goldman and Brown to death, nearly severing Nicole's head in the process. Oh, God. Knowing something about this kind of anger, I know that Simpson was not in his right mind when he killed them. I do believe, though, that in the days that followed, his remorse and guilt were real. 4 days after Nicole Simpson's body was discovered, God, and the babies were upstairs sleeping while it happened. I mean, just imagine. Four days after Nicole Simpson's body was discovered, O.J. Simpson was famously riding down the 405 in his white Bronco. The police were on his tail. His old pal, Al Collins, was at the wheel, and Simpson had a gun to his head while negotiated his surrender with the police. At this point, the mama syndrome kicked in. Simpson had one request: to return to his Brentwood house for one last telephone call. He wanted to talk to his mother. This did not surprise me at all. In his world, Mama was God. No matter what he did, she would forgive him, protect him, defend him. That is why a man-child like Simpson would never criticize Mama. He may have quietly hated her, but he would tell the world he loved her. It is a complex, screwed-up relationship, but one that afflicts most males abandoned by their fathers and raised by their mothers. Once the lawyers got a hold of him, Simpson yielded to this new discipline. He was part of a team once again. He shut down his emotions and hit the line as hard as he had in order to win. Knowing the composition of the jury, I knew how the verdict would fall. I could foresee as well the different ways blacks and whites would react. Oprah Winfrey showed the verdict live to a studio audience composed almost entirely of females. White America learned a lot that day. While the whites in Oprah's audience sat in stunned silence, the black women jumped to their feet and cheered without shame. To her credit, Oprah looked as horrified by this reaction as the white women in her audience. So Oprah does have some sense. Although many black men cheered when they heard the verdict, it was the women who seemed the most thrilled. If white women identified with Nicole, black women did not. By and large, they resent white women who steal their men with a strategic toss of their long flowing locks, especially beautiful women like Nicole, with their fair skin and blonde hair. That verdict revealed to a lot of innocent white people how black people really feel. There were many friendships that did not survive that day. For a moment, I was optimistic. Maybe I thought white people, women especially, would finally have the courage to entertain honest discussions about the policies that were destroying the black family in America. It did not happen. Turtle-like, whites stuck their heads out of their shells, shook them in dismay, and pulled them back in. The fate of the black family would be left to the ideologues, the activists, and the race hustlers who had been working to destroy it for decades. Well, I mean, it's not as if, I don't know, white people have any control over whether the black family gets it together or not. I think I want to read another chapter. See how I feel. Then I probably will discontinue reading after that. How's the chat doing? Any responses to what we've been reading? Oh dear, not Star Trek. Dijon Pa says, you could totally see my house during that chase. Nice. Were you watching the news like, yeah, all right? Or have you moved into the house since then? Dang, Kale. Your daddy don't like you. He likes everyone, right? Let us continue. So chapter 16 is called The Absent Black Father Myth. The moment of Simpson's acquittal was a rare one in media history. For just a moment, the alchemists lost control of the race narrative, but they did not lose it for long. Within days, they were back to writing about race as though the Simpson trial had never happened. If anything, they were working even harder to cover up the mess they'd helped make of Black American life. I could cite 1,000 articles to make this point, but a 2014 article by Tara Kulp-Resler in the liberal online journal Think Progress does the job better than I could. The very title, The Myth of the Absent Black Father, tells you where this article is heading. I deal with the unhappy products of that myth every day, the sad, broken young men who come to Bond for healing. It should not surprise you that Tara is a pretty young white girl from central Pennsylvania. She may even mean well. Many alchemists do. But as they say around here, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Although Black fathers are more likely to live separately from their children, the statistics that's usually trotted out to prove the parenting crisis, many of them remain just as involved in their kids' lives, writes Ms. Kulp-Resler. Pew estimates that 67% of Black dads who don't live with their kids see them at least once a month, compared to 59% of white dads and just 32% of Hispanic dads. I mean, how could you even make that statement? Is so stupid. There is, even if your father is living in a house near you or down the street, it is completely different than having him in your home. Completely different energy. Like, what? They see them once a month? How can once a month make up for days? Every single day matters. I mean, and you have to understand, like, kids are only kids for a short period of time. They grow up. Once a month, that's 12 times a year. You're getting some fatherly attention. And then what's even going on in here? It's not discipline. It's not boundaries. It's not teaching you anything. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he may teach you something here and there, like, obviously, but like, it's not the same thing as being around your father, you know, having a relationship with him like you do with your mother. And if it's only your mother, you never have any respite from her, you never have your father to go to, or vice versa. It's just not a good situation for kids. Ugh, ridiculous. Once a month. And so, and yeah, they're saying like Hispanic fathers who aren't in the home, like, only see their kids, only 32% see their kids at least once a month. And 59% of white dads. And I think there might be reasons for this too. Like, the Black community does tend to be more, I don't know, concentrated. We'll just say that it's a smaller populations, and they tend to gravitate toward one another just naturally. I feel like white people, just because it is a bigger part of the population, they move around a bit more. They're not as likely to be in the same community. You know what I mean? Not all, but I mean, just generally speaking. Are you serious, Kale? That's insane. Wow. How do you feel about that? Are you going to do that, or have you chosen to do that? Anyway. Think about what Kulp-Resler said. She boasts that Black fathers do a better job than white or Hispanic fathers because they are more likely to see them at least once a month. True, there might be many more such absentee fathers, but she suggests that a father seeing the kids once a month somehow compensates for him not being in the home. Tara fails to mention that half of all Black children live with their mothers only, with no father present, compared to just 8% of Asian children. Even more dramatic, Black children are nearly 8 times likelier than white kids to live in a home with a single mother. Okay. And yet Culp Bresler and so many alchemists like her tells us that the Black fatherless issue is a myth and that there is concrete evidence to prove it's a myth. No, Tara, your evidence is not concrete, it is sand. In mocking the alleged crisis, a word she feels the need to put in quotes, Miss Culp Bresler has nothing to say about the effect that two parents have on a family's financial well-being. The fact is that Black two-parent home families out-earn Black single-parent families by about 4 to 1. As might be expected, children in Black single-parent homes are about 5 times more likely to live in poverty than Black children living with both parents. What statistics cannot measure is the effect on a boy's future of watching a father set the alarm clock each night, get up each morning, and go to work. Some boys have no idea that this is the way the world works. Without a father, boys lack other skills as well. They likely know little about tools or crafts. They probably have never changed a tire or even hammered a nail. They may not know how to drive a car, and if they do, they probably don't know how to work a standard shift. If something breaks in their world, the mother calls the manager and hopes he shows up. When they finish school, if they finish school, these boys bring few, if any, skills to a potential job site and likely a poor work ethic as well. This failure to transmit a work ethic has been going on for generations. I had a grandfather to rely on, but many people today have not had a real man in their family, a provider and protector, since their ancestors left the South. Tara Culp Bresler gets so much backward, you wonder whether she did it on purpose. Her handling of the Adrian Peterson case is an example of that very backwardness. On October 2013, the 2-year-old son of Peterson, a star Minnesota Vikings running back, died. He had been beaten to death by his mother's boyfriend. Oh my God. Another 2-year-old, or no, this is a 2-year-old. We're just reading about sad little babies getting hurt and killed. This is so sad. Well, okay, what? We heard about this one getting beaten to death. O.J. Simpson's son, Aaron, drowning in the pool at the age of 2. And then the Nation of Islam drowning a newborn. Like, dang. Yeah, it's your name. I don't know. It's up to you, really. Do it, don't do it. I mean, I think it's rather neutral. I mean, but it's also like, why should you have to? You know, that is like weird. Whatever. Yeah, it's yours. You can do what you want with it. The headline news article on his death, like all other mainstream reports, was sympathetic to Peterson. The article includes a tweet from basketball great LeBron James. So damn sad, man. Makes no sense at all. Innocent kid with dreams gets taken away by a coward with no dreams at all. Shake my head. # sick for AP. And yet, as Culp Bresler interpreted events, the media were at fault. She scolds them, in fact, for falling back on Black stereotypes. In truth, almost no one in 2013 mentioned just how messy Peterson's life was. Although unmarried and just 28 at the time of his son's death, he reportedly had 7 or so children. When asked the exact number, Peterson told the reporters at ESPN, "I know the truth and I'm comfortable with that knowledge." They didn't push or scold. Before things went bad, the media never mentioned Peterson's behavior as a problem, and the fans did not care as long as he was playing well. Alchemists had assured us this time and again that families come in all kinds of and shapes, and that the problem in the Black families was a myth. True to form, Peterson grew up in an unstable home himself. His parents, both college athletes, never bothered marrying. Alchemists said they did not have to. When he was 13, his father was busted for his involvement in a crack cocaine ring and served 7 years in prison. Peterson picked up a couple of half-brothers along the way, one of whom would be murdered. Not surprisingly, Peterson proved to be an even more unstable parent than his father. Just look at how his 2-year-old son died. Like so many black children, the boy had multiple names, but Peterson wasn't one of them. Some called him Tyrese Ruffin after Bobby Ruffin, the man who helped raise him. Some called him Tyrese Dewan after his mom, Ann Ashley Dewan. Dewan had hooked up with Ruffin after Peterson abandoned her and then dropped Ruffin for a guy named Joey Patterson. Like so many boyfriends, Patterson saw his girlfriend's kid as a nuisance and beat Tyrese to death. The first time Peterson met his son, he was still in a coma. "Daddy is sorry," Peterson said to the child, and the media sighed. Miss Culp Resler described the boy as having tragically passed away. "No, Tara, he was murdered." And at the time, the media gave Peterson a pass. They should not have. Peterson did not get in real trouble with the law or the media until the fall of 2014, when he was charged with reckless or negligent injury to a child. He might have skated even then, except that all eyes were on the NFL as a result of an incident involving the Baltimore Ravens star running back Ray Rice. In February 2014, Rice knocked out Janae Palmer, the mother of his daughter, in an Atlantic City casino elevator. Oh, I remember this. And then dragged her out of the elevator by her feet. Although the dragging part of the incident was shown early on, it was not until the video of the attack in the elevator went public that the NFL got serious about disciplining Rice and the public got upset with the NFL. Soon thereafter, Rice married Palmer and publicly apologized. He told the media he was working every day to be a father, a better husband, and a better role model. In all fairness, Rice did not have anyone to model himself on growing up. When he was just a year old, his father was killed in a drive-by shooting. A male cousin looked out for him after his father's death, but the cousin was killed in a car crash when Rice was 11. Rice had no place to learn about responsible male adulthood, and too many people telling him the lessons weren't worth learning. He had no idea how to treat women, no idea how to step up and be a man. In the summer of 2014, Adrian Peterson married Ashley Brown, the mother of their 3-year-old child. A few days after the Rice affair exploded in the media, Peterson was arrested for child abuse. He had given one of his 2 4-year-old sons from 2 different mothers a whooping with a small tree branch, usually called a switch. The boy apparently had pushed another one of Peterson's children. You know, this is the other thing, and I had an interesting conversation in my book club this week where we discussed, or just one of the insights that kind of came out was when a man has children by different women, often you can tell his preference and how he feels about the woman will be reflected in the treatment the children receive, obviously. So, once a man is done with a woman, he's generally done with his kids with her, and especially if he has the attitude of having made multiple children out of wedlock. So, it's just interesting to hear that. So they had different mothers, and I wonder if there was any kind of preferential favoritism toward one child over the other. Like maybe he liked his mother more, or the child's mother more. Like that just kind of came to mind to me. And this is another wicked thing about polygamy, or because that definitely comes up in polygamous families a lot as well, because I know people talk about that like it's a they want to destigmatize it, or they want to like legalize it, or they're for it, or that kind of thing. It's like once you start having children in this really broken fashion, you know, where the father is not in the home daily, not accessible to the children at all times, and having multiple families with multiple women, it's natural for humans to have favoritism or to get along with other ones better than others or be more attracted to or whatever. Yeah, I know, exactly. Exactly. But my book club is feminine. It is women only, but I don't think it's necessarily feminine to be a part of a book club. It's not. You should look into it. It helps you read more. It really does. So, you know, I think reading is fundamental. It's valuable. I mean, that's why I'm doing it here. Plus, I like to read out loud. So, anyway, yeah, Sister Wives is a mess. And yeah, Garrison committed suicide this year. Rest in peace. And like the only daughter of like his first wife she's transed out now. You know, she got caught up in all that LGBTQ nonsense, and she's, you know, going by a different name, and I don't know if she's on hormones or whatever, but it's, you know, there's that, you know, there's a lot that goes on, and obviously there's severe favoritism between the wives. And you know, as as they've gone on, you know, and as they've gotten older and the kids have gotten older, like all the attention gets focused on the woman with the, you know, young kids. And the other thing is that the teens suffer because of that, you know. They do. Like, and teens need guidance as much as children, like small children do. But in these polygamous families, it doesn't happen. You know, once the kids reach a certain age, they're kind of like don't have a father anymore. And the other thing about it too is like, I mean, the males in those communities are seen as competition for women as well. And there often is like an aggressive, once the boys reach like manhood, there is a lot of aggressiveness towards them, you know? So, I mean, I know David Garrison went through that, like just, well, anyway, I don't want to get into all that stuff. Really, her mom got her on that mess. Well, I don't know who you're responding to. I don't think Mary got her on that mess at all. I mean, Mary is an interesting individual. She was always my favorite. I did a live stream like last year where we talked about Sister Wives because I had been watching it or something. So I kind of gave my analysis of it fully. You can go back and look through the live streams for that if you want to know more about my thoughts on Sister Wives. Or we could talk about it now. Sister Wives, I'll talk about it anytime. Mary's my favorite wife. There's something, I don't know, about her. But, I mean, I don't know. Her kind of situation, story is, like, insane. And I don't know. All of it's insane. I know a lot of people love Janelle because she's, like, I think a lot of women I've known, especially, like, feminist women, identify with Janelle because she's like this career woman, you know, and she's always been a big earner, and she always kind of like was kind of comfortable with the situation because of how it worked out, you know. And but I mean now she's not comfortable. Janelle ended up in the worst position, you know, of all the wives, which is insane because she was one of the most like financially productive and intelligent. And yet she got herself and put herself in a situation because she trusted these people financially, you know, that she doesn't need to be in. She should have more assets in her name. And she ended up She ends up walking away from her marriage with nothing. At least Christine had a house. At least she got property in her name that she could walk away with when she left. Janelle's, her only property is that Coyote Pass that they haven't built on. And I don't even know like what the story is with that. I heard it was paid off recently, but nothing's happening there. Yeah, Janelle. Okay, so like Mary and Janelle both worked, and Christine, the third wife, was more the one that raised the kids. So, I mean, there was period. Robin didn't work, and I think Christine worked as well. She worked in their church. She did like children's ministry as well, and some other things like that, but less involved work. She was more the main kind of caretaker, nurturer of the family. The bigger one, Janelle isn't big as a house. Anyway, Janelle's in really good shape now, actually. She's in pretty decent shape. I mean, not like, she doesn't have a body like the others, we'll just say, but like for a woman who's been big her whole life, she's looking pretty good and fit. And I always thought she was pretty too. Janelle is pretty. Like even as a bigger woman, there's something like she's pretty, you know. Which I find like Christine is less so, you know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. There's no accounting for taste and this kind of thing, you know. And they're obviously all insane because they're all caught up in this crazy cult. But yeah, Janelle had multiple careers. She worked in like finance. She worked in like real estate, and then there's been other things, but I don't know all of her positions. I think she was in accounting as well. Like she's pretty smart and capable of having like a career. She's been the one that's brought like a lot of money into the family just from her labor. Like Mary did more like social work, and she lost her job because of the show when it came out, and she wanted to go back to school for it, but then ended up like kind of getting talked out of that by the family, which who knows if that was good or bad. But now she runs her bed and breakfast. So that's true, Tar Baby Yoda. He knocked the bottom out of a lot of them, all of them. Yoda. It's spelled with a J. But anyway, enough about Sister Wives. Thank you all for the Sister Wives interlude. Anybody else got opinions about Sister Wives? Let me hear them. Because that show is amazing. Now that like one of the daughters, Gwendolyn, she's one of Christine's daughters. She's got a YouTube and like a Patreon where she does like responses. I've watched some of her, like she'll watch the show and then respond to it. She's interesting. I know McKelty does too. McKelty is also Christine's daughter, but I can't stand McKelty. Even when she was a kid, she was annoying. You know what I mean? Like, that's Freddie's dream. I know. I'm like, watch this show first. Anyway. Growing up when I did in Alabama, I felt the sting of a switch on my backside more than once. In fact, my grandmother would send me out to find a switch she could hit me with. Oh, man. The first time I had to find my own switch, I chose the thinnest one I could find before I realized the thin ones hurt more. I did not complain because I knew I deserved what I had coming. I also realized my grandmother did this out of love. It really did hurt her more than it hurt me, and I could see the pain in her eyes. Plus, she never drew blood. Oh, God. I know. I can't imagine being someone's grandma and like having to hit them. Like, I don't know. I mean, my grandma slapped me once. That was all it took. I never messed with my grandma after that. I was like 4 years old. And in that moment, when grandma slapped me, like I knew that I had been bad and that I deserved it and that I would never, ever cross my grandmother again. Never, ever. Well, anyway. Peterson, by contrast, hit the boy hard enough to leave cuts and bruises so extensive on his back, ankles, buttocks, genitals, and legs that he was indicted by a grand jury in Montgomery County, Texas. I mean, yeah, and when I hear that the kids had different parents and the kid just shoved it or had different mothers and, you know, one kid shoved the other one, my mind just automatically goes to like, you know, favoritism between the children. Even on my worst day, my grandmother never hit like that. More to the point, Peterson did not have the kind of connection to the boy he beat that I had with my grandmother. He was not married to or living with the boy's mother. He felt little more kinship with the child than boyfriend Joey Patterson had for little Tyrese. Peterson's dead son, for the record, Patterson, is Asian. Joey, his mother, is white. Peterson is black. The problem spans all races. This is not an NFL problem as the media pretended it was. This is a cultural problem, one that is particularly severe in the Black community because that is where fatherlessness has reached epidemic proportions. The absence of a father in a home can destroy a home. The absence of a father in multiple homes can destroy a community, but we're not supposed to talk about it. During the hubbub about Rice and Peterson, the media chose to blame the NFL. They refused to ask how Black NFL players were doing compared to Black men of that age who were not in the NFL. The unfortunate truth is that the NFL players were doing much better. According to the Bureau of Justice statistics cited by the NAACP in its fact sheet, 1 in 3 Black men can expect to end up in prison. For NFL players, the number is probably more like 1 in 300. As violent as the game can be, football provides young men, many of them from fractured families, the kind of mentoring and discipline most young Black men will never know. At 6'4" and weighing in at 300 pounds, Ferguson's Michael Brown should have been playing football. If he had, he would likely be alive today. Compare his fate with that of Michael O'Hare, a youth of comparable size, saved from a life of neglect first by a Black coach and then by a white Christian family who adopted him and later told his story in the book and movie The Blind Side. As a result of this attention and care, O'Hare became a star left tackle in the NFL and a multimillionaire in the process. Wasn't there a recent controversy about this story? Does anybody know, like, about this family? I feel like they were in the media recently, and I don't remember exactly what. Michael O'Hare expected. Yeah, no, I just remember Candace Owens talking about it now, but I can't remember what exactly it was. Something to do with like the story being off or something. I don't know. Michael O'Hare accepted the media pay much less attention to those Black men who are doing the right thing. One of them, also named Adrian Peterson, was a running back for the Chicago Bears from 2002 to 2009. Although of lesser talent than his namesake, he is of greater character. Despite a speech defect, Peterson graduated from college, married his girlfriend Angela, and raised 4 children with her as his wife. In June 2014, their 6-year-old son, AJ, was diagnosed with inoperable brain cancer. For the next 8 months, Peterson turned his full attention to AJ and cared for him as only a full-time father could. On February 17th, 2015, Peterson wrote on Facebook, hashtag AJ Soares is in heaven where he belongs. Hashtag AJ Soar. Hashtag P3. Hashtag my first superhero. Imagine how different AJ's last 8 months would have been if he had been one of the other Adrian Peterson's many and scattered children. A real father in the home does not just keep his son out of trouble, he provides love and support and security when trouble hits. Amen. The NAACP has no sense of this. Its fact sheet cites a number of contributing factors as to why young Black men are more likely to end up in prison. Given their Dubois legacy, the editors of this sheet prefer to blame the criminal justice system. Booker T. Washington would have focused his attention on the individual and the community. Once he did, he would have had no trouble either discovering the truth or telling it. The death of Peterson's son Tyrese at the hand of an unrelated male speaks to a problem that alchemists stubbornly and perversely refuse to acknowledge, namely the role that boyfriends, quote unquote, play in child abuse. I mean, yeah, this is the other thing too about, like, I think I mentioned in the last stream or one of the recent ones, you know, I don't understand these like single mothers that just put it all out there, you know, make themselves kind of sitting ducks for, you know, potential child abusers to come into their lives. I don't know, Stacey. I don't think Candace Owens is, I've stopped kind of following her and listening to her, to be honest. Her comeback video I found so appalling. And just considering the fact that she's the mother of like 3 small children, the way she carries on sometimes, I got a bad feeling about it. Like watching her and listening to her, like just the spirit of it. I was like, so much of it that I heard, and especially her like comeback video where she's talking about everything that happened and her fallout with her former employers and that kind of thing. I was just like, is this really like your priority? You know what I mean? It was like, this is your priority right now in your life to be making these kind of statements. And like, I don't know. I got a bad feeling from it. I'm jealous. No, I'm not. I'm jealous of her handsome husband, maybe. But even so, like, I'm not jealous. I wouldn't want to be in that position. If I had 3 small kids, I would not want to be working at all. What do you mean? Stop it. I thought you were based. I called into Hake and talked about this. What are you talking about? Like, I don't know. I don't dislike her. I haven't said she lied about anything. I just don't think it's the right conduct for someone in her position. Yeah, I called into Hake and talked about her comeback episode. I was like, because we had talked about her before. I called in to talk about her before because it was the first time I called in. He had said that she didn't change her name when she got married, and I called in to correct him that she did change her name legally. It's just, you know, in terms of her business, she's publicly known as Candace Owens, so she hasn't changed her professional identity to have her husband's name, and we kind of talked about that. But then, yeah, I called back to talk about her comeback. Like, I don't know, months later, she ended up, you know, she got fired from Daily Wire. She ended up starting her own YouTube channel. You know, I watched right away, you know, to see what she's going on about. And I was listening to it, and I just got this like feeling listening to it, like, this isn't right. She's got 3 small kids, you know, like, and she's going on this way. And it's a lot of it was just like ego and pride stuff. And like some of it was manipulative language where she was talking about this person asked me about my children the day before and then had the audacity to get on Twitter and say this about me. Like, if you're going to say that about me, why are you even asking me about my kids? Like, I just remember hearing that. And I was just like, really? Like, this is what you come back to do? This is why you're like, it seems backwards to me. Like, it's not that I don't think women can, like, make their own money. I think women should make their own money if they're, it's smart. But like, it just seems like, I don't know. It didn't seem right to me. It seemed kind of like, especially like when they're that young. She just gave birth in the last year. Like, don't you want more time to kind of be small? Like, I don't know, just, or to be quiet and to like rest and be with your babies. I don't know. Like, it just doesn't seem right. I'm Team Shapiro. Gays act way more outrageous. Well, of course, but most of them aren't raising children. And they'll, you know what I mean? Like, most of them don't have tiny, small babies that they just gave birth to within the last year. I don't think I have a different standard for her. What my standard is that mothers, especially mothers of small children, should probably not be working. And if they are working, they shouldn't be engaging in like work like this. It's just about decency. I don't know. I think I have a different, and you know what, Yoda, you're comparing kind of like, why would I have different standards for a Christian, conservative, married mother than I have for like members of the LGBTQ community? You're asking me why I have a different standard for these people. I think that should be evident. Like, really? Why should you have a different standard? Because, yeah, one's supposed to be better than the other. One's supposed to be living more righteously than the other. One's supposed to be an example. One's supposed to be, thinking about their legacy. One's brought children into the world that are going to be impacted by their, mother. I don't think she works 8 hours a day either. But I wonder, I had a bad feeling about it. I'm just telling you honestly, when I listened to it, what my response was, and I was like, there's something off about this. But it isn't me being jealous. Thank you. And it isn't, it's not anything to do with Shapiro. I mean, but also she worked for them. Like, did she really think, like, I don't know. And I'm also not pro-Palestine, okay? So let's just get that. I'm not on Team Palestine. I'm not down with all of that. I don't think more people need to go in that direction, honestly. Dealing with, it's bad. It's the wrong take to have. So I'll put that out there. Like, anyway, let's get back to the book. But yeah, I'd like her to, I don't want to like just say for Candace, I wish her well. I wish her family well. If what they're doing works for them, then that's great. If her husband doesn't have a problem with it, great. But I just don't know. I don't think in time it's going to be the right decision. Okay, I don't think it's going to be the right decision. I would never date a Palestinian. I would never. Yoda is saying you would date one of those Palestinians just to say you to be cool in Portlandia. No. I mean, I don't want to say I would never date one, but they could not be Muslim. I would never date a Muslim. So I would for a virtue signal. No, I wouldn't. I'm on my YouTube channel right now recording. This is going to stay up. I'm not interested, okay? I don't know how more publicly I need to be out here not virtue signaling, okay? I'm not racist. I'm Islamophobic. Get it right. Thank you. It has nothing to do with the race. It has to do with the faith. Okay, so let's continue. According to the federal government's fourth national incidence study of child abuse and neglect, children who live with their mother and her boyfriend are roughly 11 times more likely to suffer sexual, physical, or emotional abuse than those children who live with their married biological parents, and 6 times more likely to suffer neglect. These figures alone should silence those self-righteous knuckleheads who insist that all family types are equally good. We live in an increasingly diverse world, and that's true even for family structures, the Southern Poverty Law Center insists. The SPLC sees as a good thing the fact that more children are being raised by single parents, by same-sex parents, by grandparents, and in blended families. The SPLC thrives on attributing hate to people who tell the truth, even when children's lives are at risk. They insist that we learn to appreciate rather than fear differences and to recognize bias and stereotypes when we see them. By their standards, and they are typical in educational circles, if I point out that children living with their mother's boyfriends are in grave danger, and the danger factor goes through the roof when the boyfriend is left in charge, I am just perpetuating a stereotype. This is crazy. The federal study came to another conclusion that the alchemists want us to ignore. Unmarried parents who cohabit are 4 times more likely than married parents to abuse their kids and 3 times more likely to neglect them. The bottom line is that children who live in a stable environment with married parents are much safer than children who don't. For all the talk of child safety, bicycle helmets, car seats, bullying campaigns, gun locks, cigarettes, why do progressive thought leaders scold anyone who talks about the most basic safety issue? The reason is that the nuclear family is the single greatest deterrent to socialism. A functioning nuclear family does not need much in the way of government help. Although the problem in the United States is most severe in the Black community because of the fatherlessness epidemic, wherever in the world children live with someone other than their married parents, they suffer. A family court reporter survey for England and Wales, for instance, presented hard evidence that children were 20 to 30 times safer living with their biological married parents than in other family arrangements. I mean, it makes sense to me. How could it not? What is, y'all are going off in the chat. Yoda asked me if I would want to date a rich dude from Qatar. I don't know what I would have in common with a rich man from Qatar. I don't know that I would want to live in Qatar, and nor do I really value wealth to that extent. That's, I mean, you know, like, I'm not trying to live like an extravagant lifestyle. I'm not even really cut out for that. So, I mean, I believe I believe wealth is good. Don't get me wrong. I would, you know, if something happens naturally, but if he's a Muslim, I'm not going to be interested. It's not, I mean, there's just so many variables there. I don't even know where to begin. So yeah, no, I mean, like, it isn't. What a key to the city of Portland. what would that give me? A key to the city of Portland. What does that mean? I mean, I don't know. I'm not, I'm not motivated. Like, I, th- I will say, like, maybe I've not been understood because of ways I've talked in the, or just maybe because I haven't fully expressed my opinions um, about this specifically. But I don't. I mean, I'm not. That isn't more important to me than character and compatibility and lifestyle. You know what I mean? Yoda is like, okay, this is what Yoda says. The key to the city of Portland would be that every lib would love me. You've always yearned for that kind of approval, Terri. What a pain. Like, come on. Do you think every liberal would love me? I'd have money. They wouldn't love me. There's no way to make every person love you. People are, especially liberals, they look for reasons to hate people. The very fact that I had money, they would hate me for that. They would hate me for being in a heterosexual relationship. They would hate me for being married. They would hate me for, you know, all X, Y, and Z, not donating money to this, but not donating to that. Like, come on. I have never. Okay, first off, Yoda, during my protesting days, I was not in a wheelchair. I never said I would marry a Jew. I never said I would marry a Jewish man. He would have to be Christian. Like, he could be culturally Jewish, but he would have to be a Christian. I wouldn't marry somebody of a different faith. But yeah, I wasn't in a chair. I was upright. My legs worked back in those days. They worked good in those days. I didn't even have pain when I was a protester, when I attended protests. Oh, those days, those glorious days. It was a long time ago, Yoda. I never ran over anyone's toes. But anyway, elsewhere too, soft-headed leaders ask their citizens not to notice the numbers behind headlines such as couple jailed for life in one of Britain's worst child abuse cases. According to Australia's ABC News, a 4-year-old boy died of head injuries after being systematically starved for months by who? A single woman and her drug-abusing boyfriend. Yet ABC assigned the larger blame to failure to act by Daniel's school and social services. Teachers, health professionals, and social services and police missed signs that Daniel was being ill-treated. Not a word suggested that the state-subsidized family breakdown had anything to do with the death. Family instability comes in many shapes and forms. A former Muslim from Egypt, Nani Darwish, has written about the problems in Islamic homes that are very similar to the kinds of problems I have seen. Darwish claims that polygamy has had much the same kind of devastating effect on the Muslim family that fatherlessness has had on Black families. The reality, as she sees it, is that a man's loyalty, when divided between multiple wives, can never bring peace, stability, or trust to any of the family members involved, especially the children. I mean, yeah, that's the thing, too. It's one thing for a woman to get herself into that kind of arrangement as an adult, of her own volition, but just watching Sister Wives, these are white people, right? They're like almost identifiable, some of them. I've told you about like feminists I've known being like, oh, I love Janelle, or women identifying with different wives, that you can see yourself in them to a certain degree. But it's just, even in that situation, and where they have a good deal of money coming in from the television program as well, like that's been hell on those kids. Those kids have really suffered. You see it. Ben Shapiro is different. I wouldn't really marry Ben Shapiro. He's already married. I mean, and I don't. Drinking and ditch bombing. What is ditch bombing? I have never been to a BLM rally. I have never been to a BLM rally. My protest days ended with like the Occupy era. Like after that, I never attended another. I mean, did I? I feel like, have I attended any marches? I know, you know what? I did table at one of the women's marches in like 2017 or 2018. I sat and like tabled when the march was happening for the National Organization for Women. So that was, yeah, I've never been to a BLM rally. But you keep living in your imagination. Your marches sucked. Screw you, Yoda. My marches were amazing. Ramp over roads in the ditch. Dang, my marches suck. You don't know. You don't know. I really did a lot, didn't I? I have never. What a BBL rally is. What are you talking? You really did a lot, didn't you? I mean, I suppose I did in my time as an activist. And yeah, I suppose I did. I mean, not when I look at it, when I look at in my life, what I've gotten out of it, it's just treasure in heaven. I've just stored up my treasure in heaven because it sure as hell ain't here on earth. I don't know if I made a difference. I mean, for the local chapter of Now, and I did a good job with that. I mean, I did host and kind of lead a book club for a long time that was radical feminist. We read a lot of radical feminist work. That probably was helpful. I did kind of help cook meals at events, or I did organize some events, chaired for a number of years when I was in Radical Women. I was also on their executive board, so was kind of in the local leadership. Yeah, I mean, but there were a lot of years I didn't do any activism because I was sick, or I was online. I was doing my YouTube, doing my social media activism, nonsense, a lot of it. I mean, but some of the videos and stuff and that kind of thing were good. And, I did meet a lot of interesting women and went places I wouldn't have gone without it. I mean, then there was also stop porn culture. Today, I remembered I forgot about the slut walk. When the slut walk happened here in Portland, stop porn culture, we made little quarter sheet flyers that said "No woman is a slut," and we passed them out and like put them on like cars and different things like that. Or even when the march went by, we dropped some of them on the march. That was pretty good. So I can't really follow what Irish Repub is saying, or if he's just reacting to Yoda. He's calling me a McRib. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, or if it is ridiculous behavior. I mean, most of the time I was pretty tame, honestly. Especially when I was really organizing or doing things. So, and I was efficient. I did learn how to organize in Radical Women. I got a lot of skills out of that. So I don't regret joining that organization because I had skills from it that I can take with me and apply to anything I do. It doesn't have to be activism. And some of the events we had were fun, like we did movie showings, and the book club was fun. We read some really interesting stuff, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not, but I don't really think I did anything that exciting, or like that impactful as well. But I don't know the reverberations, because I do hear things and then I see like, oh, well, I was part of founding that, or, oh yeah, I was there when this happened. Was this in the nuclear era, the nuclear night era? I was involved in Radical Women when I was in the nuclear night era. That was like my real young times, real young. Have you looked me up? Resonate? Have you been? Oh, it's a gray alien. I don't like gray aliens. Yikes. It's watching me. I'm being watched by gray aliens. They're singing songs at the pub about your protesting. Yeah, I know. In time, I will be remembered. I don't know. I really don't want to be. I kind of just want to be. You subbed to me back then. Okay. Dang, you've been around for a long time. What do you think? Do you think I'm crazy? Or like what? What's your like perception over the years as you've watched me go through all that? Shut up, Yoda. Ridiculous. Okay. These anxious, oppressed mothers are responsible for raising their sons when young. They tend to shift their loyalties away from their unreliable husband to their firstborn son. The son becomes her man and her defender, writes Darwish, very often against his own father, whom he blames for marrying a second wife. I mean, yeah, that's typical, especially like in the sister wives thing. I mean, Janelle's sons really didn't like the way their mother was being treated. They saw the favoritism between the families. They didn't like the way Christine was being treated either, because they were attached to Christine because she helped raise them. So they were seeing the inequity between the families, and Well, I've been around Kale Samogi for a longer time than them. So in the grand scheme of things, it's crazy that I don't have more. But, I'm okay with it. I'm not doing this really for anyone else. It's for me. How flattering. Thank you. I look better now than I did a lot of times, honestly. I was looking crazy. I think that is something I appreciate about it. It's kind of nice to be like in my late 30s and kind of like, wow, I look better than I did most of my adult life. Interesting. My guess is that those sons also resent their mothers for alienating them from their fathers. Angry and unstable, they join not street gangs, but ISIS or Al Qaeda to find their identity. Yet, just as the alchemists blamed poverty at home for street crime, they blame poverty in the Muslim world for jihad. In neither case is poverty the problem. Darwish knows the real problem and the solution. None of this would be necessary if marriage was considered a holy covenant between one man and one woman, she writes, which would transfer the loyalty and trust to the basic nucleus of the family from where all trust comes, the husband and wife. I think I'm going to continue reading. Well, I mean, I was intelligent, but intelligence and like wisdom and smarts are two different things, you know. You know, it's sometimes like the most foolish person knows the most, really, in situations, or the person perceives as like most foolish. Or I definitely I definitely think there was a lot of knowledge that puffed me up but did not make me better or live better. So, but we live and we learn. Hopefully, I have. So this next chapter is chapter 17. It's titled Fake Authenticity. Let me tell you, these things, the things that's about to happen to these honkies, these crackers, these pigs, these pink people, these people, it has been long overdue. So said Michelle Williams. Michelle Williams, oh my God. Chief of Staff for an outfit called the New Black Panther Party during an interview regarding the Trayvon Martin case. My prize right now this evening, Williams continued, is going to be the bounty, the arrest, dead or alive, for George Zimmerman. You feel me? Williams made these comments before the state of Florida even charged Zimmerman with a crime. He was a free man at the time, but understandably, given the threats, he was in hiding. So tolerant have the media become of threatening bullying behavior by radical blacks, even death threats, that Williams got off with an apology. Are they negative? Are they harsh? She said to a 10 News reporter in Tampa of her earlier comments. Yes, I will be the first to admit that. I have a passion when it comes to the justice system here in America. I have a passion when it comes to race. Harsh? Threatening to take someone's life away is way worse than harsh. It is criminal. But Black leaders like Williams, or even slightly more civilized ones like Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton, are held to a different standard than white leaders. If Zimmerman had said anything like what Williams did before or after the shooting, he would have been sent to prison for a long, long time on hate crime charges. Our Black leaders, though, can call whites crackers, as William did, or Heimies, as Jackson did, or homos, as Sharpton did, and face nothing worse than a slap on the wrist, if that. It didn't used to be this way. Growing up, I rarely heard racial slurs being uttered by either blacks or whites. I was only called N-word once in my whole life by white people, and that was 40 years ago in Chicago. A friend and I were walking down the street when a car full of young toughs shouted N-words at us. I know we were supposed to be all upset, but it struck us as so stupid we both started laughing. Yeah, I'd probably laugh too. Those Black leaders who swoon at the notion that someone somewhere was called a racial slur of some sort are playing games. When they hear a racial slur or even something that sounds like a slur, what they really hear is cha-ching of a cash register. The object of the game is to make white people feel guilty and control them through their guilt. No matter what young Black people may try to tell you, most of them have never been called an N-word by a white person. They may have not even heard a white person use the word. Some Black people will say that a white person called them some slur or another, but they will often make this claim to justify what they did next, like punch the white person out. I stopped believing these claims a long time ago. Today there are more racial hoaxes than there are real white on Black racial incidents. That said, young blacks have heard the word N-word thousands of times. In fact, most of them have been called N-word. The people doing the calling, of course, are black themselves. More and more black people, Michelle Williams is a good example, have little hesitation about using racial slurs to talk about white people. I hear words like redneck, cracker, and honky frequently in LA. On national TV recently, a black basketball player said of a white player, F that N word, and got away with it. This coarsening of the language goes hand in glove with the coarsening of the culture. Black leaders need to take some responsibility for the cultural breakdown. Too often, they ignore bad behavior or even applaud it as authentic, but it is not even that. As Black economist Thomas Sowell observes, there is nothing authentically Black about crude language, immoral behavior, and violence. Amen. Violence was far more common in the South and in those parts of Britain from which the Southerners came, writes Sowell. So was illegitimacy, lively music and dance, and a style of religious oratory marked by strident rhetoric, unbridled emotions, and flamboyant imagery. All of this would become part of the cultural legacy of Blacks who lived for centuries in the midst of the redneck culture of the South. Although most whites and Blacks have abandoned the rough and tumble culture of the Old South, the lifestyle, says Sowell, survives among the least educated Blacks and those Black and white who think imitating them is cool. He accuses the alchemists, in fact, of aiding and abetting a counterproductive ghetto lifestyle that is essentially a remnant of the redneck culture which handicapped Southern whites and Blacks alike for generations. This trend began in the 1960s. Until then, Blacks aspired to the same things whites did: a good job, marriage, children, home ownership. Black parents fought to get their kids into good schools, and once in those schools, the kids worked hard to succeed. They dressed sharp when they went to school. They spent hours practicing sports or playing musical instruments. They did their homework. They knew they could grab a much bigger slice of the American dream than their parents had, and most young people went after it. When I return to Alabama, I see much of this same spirit still alive. I am amazed by how many more Blacks I see working than I do in Los Angeles. I see, too, a much warmer, more natural relationship between Blacks and whites than I see in LA and other big cities. In America's cities, the most evil white supremacist could not have done a better job than the alchemists did in turning all this upside down. Today, as Sowell points out, they denounce any criticism of the ghetto lifestyle or any attempts to change it. Teachers are not supposed to correct Black youngsters who speak Black English, and no one is supposed to be judgmental about the whole lifestyle of Black rednecks, as she showed in her interview on Tampa TV. Michelle Williams is perfectly capable of speaking standard English. In her rants, though, she goes ghetto. She thinks speaking that way is authentic. As Sowell says, though, if it is authentically anything, it is authentically redneck. One of the clearest indicators of how redneck Black culture has gone is obvious to those who follow music. In his own backward way, white rapper Eminem has a better handle on the nature of the authentic Black personality than do all the heads of all the sociology departments across the land. Born Marshall Mathers III, Eminem never knew his father. It's amazing he has his father's name and his grandfather's name, but he did not know his father. The man split before the boy was old enough to know he was gone. When Eminem tried to contact him, the letters would come back returned to sender. His drug-addled mother dragged him around the Midwest for the first 11 years of his life before settling in a largely Black neighborhood on the east side of Detroit. He never forgave her. In Detroit, Eminem found relief from constant bullying by mastering rhyming skills and taking them public in local freestyle throwdowns. His loveless, disordered childhood and trailer park roots played well in the rap world and lent him an air of authenticity. In the climactic scene of 8 Mile, a movie based on his life, He humiliates a would-be black gangster rapper in a throwdown. This guy's a gangster, Eminem asks, before exposing his competitor for what he is. His real name's Clarence, and Clarence lives at home with both parents. You like my Eminem? If that were not humiliating enough, Eminem tells the largely black audience that Clarence attends a prep school and his parents have a real good marriage. Eminem gets it. Authenticity is accessible to anyone who wallows in his own sty, black or white. Amen. So often that's the case where like authenticity is seen as just being, like your most based self. You notice that like when and I find that oftentimes I get kind of like cringy when I hear speeches or listen to like people who will be like full on activists for decades. For example, I'm thinking of one person in particular. I'm not going to name them, but like watched a speech by this person who I've met before and who, I've just seen over the years as an activist recently. And they were giving a speech and just peppering the F word in it, like very liberally. And to me, it felt inauthentic because I was like, what, you're like this old. Are you really like just dropping F bombs like this for, I know that people do. And I mean, I'm not incapable of swearing. So, y'all have heard me here. I think I swore earlier on the stream. I think I said F too. I mean, but that was genuine. And it's like, but this is like a written speech that this person wrote out and was reading from a paper, and it had F words in it. Like, who honestly writes and doesn't edit themselves? Like, wouldn't you? But yeah, it's all for like that to grab attention and to shock and to give that like authentic, that like, emotional thing. You're thinking of Louis Farrakhan, Kale Samogi. I'm not talking about Kamala. Kamala is not an activist. She's a politician. Anyway. Okay, where was I? Jealous of kids with two parents, rappers like Eminem have interpreted a good family life as a sign of weakness, of whiteness. They have done the same with good grades, clean living, hard work, and marriage. In that culture, confirms Soul, belligerence is considered being manly and crudity is considered cool, while being civilized is regarded as acting white. I grew up listening to people like Diana Ross, James Brown, Otis Redding, The Temptations, the whole Motown lineup for that matter. These people did not sing about how angry they were or who they wanted to humiliate or even kill. They sang about relationships and almost always with respect for the one they love. These relationships often ended in marriage. The song You Send Me, one of my favorites, Sam Cooke, had lyrics like, I find myself wanting to marry you and take you home. The Dixie Cup sang, going to the chapel and we're going to get married. Al Green sang, let's stay together, whether good or bad, happy or sad. Today you have to look far and wide to find any reference to marriage in a song that is not some sort of punchline. A more typical song today is Kanye West's Monster, with charming lyrics like, so mommy best advice is to get on top of this, and my presence is a present, kiss my ass. And these are some of the cleaner lyrics. The video version is more troubling still. Critic Melinda Tankard-Reese. Melinda Tankard-Reese is in here. Whoa, she's the Australian anti-porn activist woman. I'm trying to remember. She's very anti-abortion, I remember. So there was like a lot of controversy around her in the radical feminist circles. But yeah, interesting. Interesting. I didn't think she'd get her shout out in here. Hey. Critic Melinda Tankard Reese placed it in the Dead Bitches Are the Best theme, with its scenes of a murderous rampage, with most of the dead being women. Dead women in lingerie swing from chains around their necks. Naked female corpses adorn the furniture. 2 other female bodies are joined by West in bed. West has made a fortune imitating fake, authentic blacks and selling their angry, misogynistic, anti-white, ghetto style to the culture at large. You would never guess it listening to his music or hearing him speak, but West's late mother had been a chair of the English department at Chicago State University before she retired. At age 10, he attended school in Nanjing, China, and learned Chinese. In high school in Chicago, West got all A's and B's and received a scholarship to attend Chicago's American Academy of Art before dropping out to pursue his music career. West's public persona, though, is gangster, or at least a bad imitation of the same. The song We Don't Care on his early album College Dropout set the tone. We don't care what people say. My niggas. Drug dealing just to get by, stack your money till it gets sky high. This was easy enough for West to say. If his music thing did not work out, he had a nice home to return to. Not all his niggas were so lucky. West does have something in common with less fortunate blacks. His father, a former Black Panther, left home when he was 3, the same age that the fathers of Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin also left home. This may be the reason why his music connects with real thugs. It may also account for why West, despite his spectacular success, has gone through life so visibly angry and projected so much of that anger toward white people. For all of his tough guy talk, West was very much a captive of the mama syndrome. When his mother died in 2007 as a result of complications from cosmetic surgery, not your average Black death, he fell apart. I wonder what she had done. It would be a year before he could bring himself to talk about her death. And even then, he did it out of desperation. I'd rather talk it through than commit suicide, he told People magazine. I'm super devastated. He was 30 when she died. His mother was still alive when West made his first big public angry splash. The occasion was the Live 8 concert tour to raise awareness of AIDS and global poverty. During the tour, he told his audience, who may not have known any better, that AIDS was a man-made disease. In the world, according to Kanye, the disease was placed in Africa, just like crack was placed in the Black community to break up the Black Panthers. He repeated this theme in his 2005 hit, Heard 'Em Say, wrote West. And I know the government administered AIDS, so I guess we just pray like the ministers say. A few months later, during the post-Katrina concert for hurricane relief, he ignored the teleprompter and his startled co-host Mike Myers by blurting out, "They're giving them permission to go down and shoot us." For those who may not have known who was given permission, West announced, "George Bush doesn't care about Black people." Yeah, that was amazing. I didn't know that Kamala Harris had said the F word. She's a mess. Did y'all like my reading of the N word with the A at the end? Did you like that? Give the video a like if you haven't already to support the channel. Drop a heart in the comment section if you want more N words with the A at the end. Let me know. Okay. West's grudge towards white people wasn't limited to AIDS, doctors, and George Bush. At the 2009 MTV Video Music Awards, teenage Taylor Swift had just accepted the award for Best Female Video. Was it video? I thought she got album. When West rushed to the stage and grabbed the mic out of her hands. "I'm sorry," he said, "but Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time." Swift would later tell People magazine, I was really excited because I just won the award. And then I was really excited because Kanye West was on stage. And then I wasn't excited anymore after that. And didn't Beyonce handle that well? Like, just to give her a shout out, like, I'm not really a Beyonce fan, but she did handle that with class. Like, she was visibly angry when it happened. And then when she was on stage later on, she invited Taylor up to, speak. Because, I mean, she was devastated. Like, Taylor was just kind of like, I don't want to say devastated, but she was just kind of like stunned, It was really... Who did I say? I meant Taylor Swift. No, I mean, Beyonce acted honorably at that when that what happened, because he was like, Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. And Beyonce was just in the audience, like, horrified, and she did, like, when it was her time, she gave Taylor time. So I thought she handled that well with class. I was giving the woman her props. She had class. I don't know what Yoda's going on about. Let's continue. Apparently nobody liked my N-word, I read the N-word, nobody liked it. No hearts. Yeah, Taylor was classy too. But like I'm saying, like, Beyonce didn't have to give her time up when it was her turn. She didn't have to, but she chose to, I don't think she knew he was going to do that mess. I mean, maybe they all knew. Maybe they were all in on it. It could have been an Illuminati humiliation ritual. I mean, I've watched videos. Oh, Resonate thinks it was gangster. You think it was gangsta? Gangsta. That's me. I mean, yeah, maybe you're right. You're right, Yoda. It was an Illuminati humiliation ritual. That was when Taylor got inducted into the Illuminati, You're right. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it 100. You're right. All right. West repeated the performance at the 2015 Grammys when he stormed the stage after the white singer Beck beat out Beyonce for the Best Album Award. Oh, poor Beck. You think Kanye was trying to get with Beyonce? I mean, he's really, like, the Carters don't like him. Like, Jay-Z and Beyonce, they seem to have a pretty big separation from him. It's interesting. Not surprisingly, West is a big fan of President Obama, and Obama is a fan of West. The rapper, well, they're Chicagoites too. I mean, that's probably something to do with it. The rapper openly supported Obama during the 2008 campaign and performed on an all-star CD titled Yes We Can, Voices of a Grassroots Movement. Obama seemed untroubled by West's comments on AIDS and George Bush, but when West's attack on Taylor Swift blew up in the media, Obama felt obliged to disown him, at least temporarily, much as he disowned Jeremiah Wright when the pastor became troublesome. That's right. Why was he so mean to our perfect little Taylor Swift? The young lady seems like a perfectly nice person, Obama said of Swift in an interview with CNBC shortly after the incident. God, imagine being the president and, commenting on this stupidity. She's getting her award. What's West doing up there? He's a jackass. Apparently, they have since patched things up. In October 2014, Obama met with West and his celebrity wife, Kim Kardashian, and signed an autograph for them. To Kanye and Kim, thanks for the support and best wishes to your lovely daughter, Barack Obama. Said West of Obama a few months later, he calls the home phone, by the way. There was no reason to disbelieve him. Black leaders like Obama want a piece of that black redneck culture to authenticate themselves in the eyes of Black America. Meanwhile, ghetto phonies like West have to keep dumbing the culture down for fear that his homeboys will think he's acting white. I'm not a fan of books, said West to prove that point. I would never want a book's autograph. I'm a proud non-reader of books. That much seems pretty obvious to anyone paying attention. The late rap legend Tupac Shakur was much more convincing as a fake black redneck than West. With the words "Thug Life" tattooed on his belly, Tupac, born Lassane Parish Crooks, did his best. Whoa, was he related to the guy that like tried to assassinate President Trump? I mean, I didn't support Obama. I was not supporting Obama in 2008 or what was the next 2012. I didn't vote for him and I didn't support him. I remember though I was in the black neighborhood when he was like I was still in Radical Women at the time, and their hall was kind of in North Portland, so we went up there to watch the election, and I remember like as soon as it was announced, like the whole people outside were going crazy. Like people were in the streets, like partying, acting wild. Like it just went nuts. And I was kind of just sitting there stunned, and then like Lift Every Voice and Sing came on. That's what I remember about the election. But yeah, I didn't vote for him or support him. I didn't like him. I did not like him. He was fake news. And I hated that whole hope thing. Hope. What the hell did that mean? Hope. More like nope. Nope. I think I said, okay, so anyway. Okay, born Lassane Parish Crooks, he did his best to live up to that slogan during the 25 years he spent on this earth. Did he die at 25? God, really? Obama died at night, or not Obama. Let's not get into speculating, but sorry, Tupac died when he was 25. I guess that is true, isn't it? He was arrested for several violent offenses, including an assault on black film director Alan Hughes, and of course every crime he committed only increased his star power in the crude alternative culture he was helping to create. Those crimes included a sexual assault on a 19-year-old fan. The starstruck young woman testified that she went to Shakur's hotel room, and there Shakur and several of his crew set upon me like animals. Oh, God. In the wake of Shakur's arrest, the woman received threatening phone calls, suffered nightmares, and lived in constant fear while Shakur was glorified by his peers and fans. At the sentencing hearing, she asked the court for justice, concluding he should not be allowed to use his so-called celebrity status to avoid the consequences of his actions. The judge obliged her by sentencing Shakur to prison for no less than a year and a half. Earlier during the trial, an alleged robber, likely from a rival rap gang, shot Shakur 5 times. He'd recovered by the time of the sentencing and tearfully apologized to the young woman as well as to the youth of America. But then, lest anyone think he was guilty of anything, he added, "I'm not apologizing for a crime." In black redneck culture, no one ever does anything wrong. Just ask the criminals' mothers. I have no shame, said Shakur. I don't feel shame. Shakur's female fans had no shame either. Many of those in attendance wept openly on hearing the sentencing. One of them leaned over the rail and kissed Shakur before a court officer restrained her. What's wrong with women? Hello, Netta. Welcome. Kale Smogy said, dang, base Terry. I think this is about not supporting Obama. Fake. You know, that's one thing. I never voted Democrat. Well, that isn't true. I have voted for some Democrats locally, but I do feel they were the best people for the position. Just, you know, but I'm independent. So, but yeah, no, never vote for any of those Dems. But you know what? I haven't voted for a Republican for president either. So I did not love Bernie. Shut up. I was not a Bernie supporter. Stop it. You don't know me. Dang. All right, so let's continue. The parallels between Shakur's background and West's are hard to overlook, but Shakur's was a little rougher. He first met his father, Billy Garland, when Garland visited Tupac in the hospital after his shooting. He likely came to stake his claim in Shakur's fortune. After Shakur's death, in fact, this absentee father took Shakur's mother to court, demanding his half of the pie. He didn't get it. Well, good, I should hope not. The mother was herself a product of a violent, broken home. In the 2004 book, Afeni Shakur, Evolution of a Revolutionary, Afeni offers a useful look at how family dysfunction can deform a child. It's hard to hate your parents, she told the book's author, Jasmine Guy. It's hard to live with that kind of hatred because they are a part of you. Indeed it is. As a girl, she just hurt. Everything around me seemed hurtful. Like so many Black kids brought up this way, she internalized this anger. For most of my life, I have been angry, she admitted. Although I thought my mama was weak and my daddy was a dog. Unable to face up to her own anger, Afeni took the natural steps of projecting it outward. In the late 1960s, with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King dead, the Black Panthers seemed to offer the most complete avenue of escape. Reading Afeni's book was, for me, like reading my own history. The pattern is so clear, and she acknowledged as much. So the Panther Party for me at that time clarified my situation. Afeni told Guy, they took my rage and channeled it against them, she points outside. Instead of us, she holds her heart. They educated my mind and gave me direction. Looking back, I have to wonder why the media refused to see what was troubling people like Afeni Shakur and failed to hear their cries for help, for what they were. Instead, they took their angry protests against them at face value and asked them, white Americans, to apologize for an anger they did not provoke. Afeni has remained angry and bitter all her life. Oh, that sounds tiring. When radical politics failed to heal her hurt, she turned to crack cocaine, and that was no answer either. Like so many parents without a good role model, she was no better a mother to Tupac than her mother was to her, and Tupac suffered for it. Still, for all her problems, Afeni was better educated and brighter than the average ghetto parent. Although she chose not to attend, she was accepted to the Bronx High School of Science, New York's most selective public school. Living in Baltimore as an adult, she steered Tupac to the Baltimore School for the Arts. There he took acting and dance classes, including ballet. In fact, he played the role of the Mouse King in the school's production of The Nutcracker. Not your typical launching pad for a gangster rap artist. Oh, that's so sweet. Imagining Tupac being the little the Mouse King. From Baltimore, he moved with his fractured family to the soft suburbs of Marin County, California, and there his life took a turn very much like Trayvon Martin's. Shakur wrote about it with some insight in his song Dear Mama, a song that moved me when I first heard it because it spoke to my own experience as well. As Shakur told the story, he was suspended from school and kicked out on the streets at 17. In commiserating with his baby sister, who had a different father than he did, they would blame Mama when things went wrong. He acknowledged, too, that he got no love from my daddy because the coward wasn't there. Filled with anger toward both his parents, he started hanging out with drug dealers because at least they showed a young brother love. In time, Shakur grew to appreciate Afeni, and even as a crack fiend, Mama. You always was a black queen mama. It's funny reading these lyrics, to be honest. I'm kind of like cringing inside. I remember, oh, hey, Toucan's here. Hey. Hey, Mimi. You like that song, Dear Mama? Am I your human? Am I your human, mama? Be real. Yes, good kitty. Good kitty. What a good kitty. This is a good kitty right here. This is a luxury kitty. Top of the line kitty. They don't make kitties better than this. Hi. How was your nap? You want up here? Come on. Get some of this. Get you some. Get you some. Get you some. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Little Nero interlude here. Hey. Wow, look at you. You're so handsome. Look at you. You're so small. Hey. We got the kitty. We got the kitty. What you want, baby? Yeah, you get cuddly. Oh, they want to see you. The crowd wants to see you. You want to get on cam? Let's see. Get on cam, Bubba D. There we go. Oh, I don't know about this shot. You can kind of see my bra in the shot, but yeah, we're not. Don't look at my couch. Don't look at my couch. I haven't done my couch yet, y'all. Okay. It's a mess. But yeah, he's here with me. Yeah. Do I think he'd get along with dogs? I think he'd kick their ass. What are you talking about? No, he don't get along with dogs. He'd kill them. Would you kill them dogs? You don't want them dogs in your house. It's your house. I don't know. I've thought about that maybe when he gets older, maybe like a small dog would be good, but I can't really be taking care of a dog. Honestly, I don't have it in me. I just don't like, it's too much work to have a dog. It's good. He is pretty based. I mean, it doesn't get more based than a cat, really. They're very, get him a kitten. I've thought about that, like maybe getting him a kitten might be good for him because they're so feisty, you know? And he's very playful, but I wonder, he never learned very good boundaries, you know, with other cats. He can be too aggressive, you know. But I don't want another cat. I can't, like, one cat is not like a lot to take care of, and it's so expensive, you know, like really keeping up a cat. I don't think he would appreciate it either. He's very territorial. And like the space he has here, he has total dominion over it. I don't know. And he gets a lot of attention from me as well. You know, I work at home, so I'm with him most of the time. He's not suffering for attention. I mean, maybe he could get a little bit more. Maybe, but he gets a lot. He gets a lot of attention. Anyway, nice little interlude from the resident cat. Isn't he amazing? My sweet kitty. Let's turn this light off. See, how's the lighting doing? It's all right. Let us continue. You got some of your hair on my face now and on the book. Why are you shedding? Why are you shedding, Mr. Kitty? Oh my God. Okay. But he came to terms with my anger, no better than his mother had. Unable to understand his homegrown rage, Shakur, like so many other young black males, focused his anger on the white establishment and its representatives in the street, the police. To do so, he did not have to join some outlaw organization. By the 90s, when he came of age, the culture was much more accommodating. His brand of music was less about love than it was about hate. Cops on my back just 'cause I'm black, he rapped in Soldier's Revenge. Can't find peace on the streets till the niggas get a piece. F police, hear them screaming. The song ends with the young soldier getting pulled over by the police, shouting, "Remember Rodney King," and blasting the punk-ass cop. I was living in South Central Los Angeles when the Rodney King incident took place in 1991. For many years, I had lived with the belief that every time the cops stopped me, they did so just to harass me because I was black. Once, they ordered a friend and me to lie face down on the street while they searched my car. Nothing came of it. They said we matched the description of 2 suspects they were looking for, and let's face it, if you are young and black and live in a city too, many of the suspects do look like you. Back then, I wasn't buying it. By the time of the King incident, my head was clear. I saw through the media propaganda and understood why the police did what they did. The cops weren't on King's back because he was black. They were on his back because he'd led them on a drunken high-speed chase through the San Fernando Valley and resisted arrest. Rodney King was not a bad guy. He would go on to write a book called The Riot Within, My Journey from Rebellion to Redemption, in which he accepted his share of responsibility for the events on March 3rd, 1991. As King admitted, though, his life was pure chaos from an early age. He grew up in nearby Pasadena with his mother and an abusive, philandering, alcoholic father. He took to alcohol just as his father had, and his life spiraled quickly downhill after his father died. 2 years before he became a household name, he threatened a Korean grocer with an iron bar and robbed his store. Oh, God. On parole at the time of the car chase and seriously inebriated, King rightly feared that if he were stopped for a DUI, he would lose not only his license, but quite likely his freedom. The 2 fellows who rode with him had no such concerns and did what the cops told them to do. They avoided the beating. All takedowns look bad on videotape, but the cops tried to subdue King, a huge guy, with every other technique in the book. They tased him twice and tried to swarm him without batons, but to no effect. Even after they used the batons to subdue him, King managed to lunge at the officers. This provoked the final beating caught on videotape and edited by the networks to take out the lunge. As would happen with Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, the rap culture ran with the false narrative the media created and elevated Rodney King to martyr status. When a jury acquitted the police in criminal court, the gangsters in my South Central neighborhood used the acquittal as an excuse to burn the city down. I kept my distance, but I could not avoid seeing the flames lighting up the nighttime sky. I felt ashamed for Black Americans. They were hurting their cause, not helping it. A lot of them had no idea what was going on, and others simply did not care about the truth. They took joy in others' misery and were beyond shame. Despite a $4 million cash settlement, King could never quite get his life in order. In the ensuing years, he was arrested multiple times for driving under the influence, in several cases after causing accidents, and once after knocking his wife down with his car. Oh, God. His businesses failed. His marriages failed. After the Trayvon Martin case exploded into the public in March 2012, King's publicist released a statement linking King's trumped-up legacy to Martin's. The horrifying sound of a young Black male screaming for his life on a 911 call reminded me of my horrifying scream on a videotape 20 years ago, King was quoted as saying. At that time, I thought I was going to die. Very, very gratefully, I survived. Unfortunately, Trayvon Martin did not. King did not survive much longer. 2 months later, he drowned in his fiance's swimming pool, his body toxic with alcohol, cocaine, PCP, and marijuana. Tupac Shakur did not survive very long either. No sooner was he released from prison on the sexual assault charge than trouble came, stalking him again. The anger that gnawed away at him and others in the rap world needed an outlet. To actually take on the cops and the establishment was a bridge too far, and he certainly wasn't going to fight Mama. As so often happens, these would-be gangsters turned on each other. They had to prove, excuse me, they had to prove they were the real thing and competed with each other to see who was the most real, most authentic, most redneck. That kind of competition has a way of turning deadly, as Shakur learned the hard way. The anger many gangsters feel towards their mothers is so intense that it sometimes drives them into less socially acceptable outlets. A number of these young men have confided to me that their rage has driven them to the point of participating in sex acts with other young men. This tragic scenario plays out in our nation's prison systems on a daily basis. Oh my. Oh my. I think, yeah, we'll cut off there. We're up to chapter 18. I think next reading we might complete the book. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It might be a lot to read, but we got through a lot tonight. We got through a number of chapters. We went from 13, I think. I mean, yeah, we went from we read through 13 through 17. So yeah, interesting. So we are getting through the book. We'll see what we do next time if we get through it. I probably will marathon it. So I don't know. Probably won't be till this weekend. We'll see. What's happening in chat, y'all? What are y'all saying? Move this back. Good luck, Kale. Yeah, good luck. Yeah, I mean, do forgive your father and have no expectations. I agree with that. Yeah, well, hopefully his ego is no longer bruised. It's amazing to me how immature adults can be with children, but when you like, because I felt like that growing up all the time. I was like so resentful at both of my parents for being so immature, and not, putting me in the position I felt of like being the adult, and as I grew up, and kind of came to understanding and forgiving them, I just, I hadn't really understood, because I mean, look at how I be an adult, I mean, I'm not the worst, but I could be a lot better. And I look at them and, I think, I was wrong to judge them. I was comparing them to something they could never live up to anyway. But I mean, a lot of parents will like be resentful at the kids. It always amazes me though. I just imagine like as a parent, you have to be forgiving with your kids. You have to be like, you can't hold resentment against them for things they say or, because you have to understand they need you more than you need them, And I don't think parents, they let their bruised egos or feelings get in the way sometimes of, their relationship with their kid. They're like, well, you don't want to do it my way, or you said this to me. It's like, well, you're the adult. You've got like what 20 plus years on this person, or in my parents' case, like 28 years, 32 years. Is that right? How old was mom when she had me? I have to do the math, but anyway, they were adults. How many fans do I have? I have 2. Oh no, Frederick. I am a lady. I mean, more on the lady spectrum, definitely, than the anything else you could say. But yeah, thank you. I did swear earlier though in the stream, but it was genuine. It was from the heart. You know, it came out like, you know, in in a fit of passion. You know, it wasn't, which is like how I feel swearing should happen. It should be genuine, you know, and it shouldn't be every other word. Our country is trying to be taken by a bunch of cow wives. What does that mean? Cow wives? I'm unfamiliar with that. We're talking about JD Vance, the Trump's VP pick, 39 years old. I mean, when I read that, I was like, had almost whiplash, like a 39-year-old as vice president. I mean, I don't know. It might be good for the country to have a young man, though. Like, you think about it, like, there are advantages to youth, you know, that, and especially since Trump is older, it might be very beneficial to have a younger man around, you know, to help rule the nation. I think that's sensible. Yeah, I thought that too. He's got those very dark eyelashes, yeah. Oh no, that's so silly. Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of him before this announcement. No idea who he is. But I don't follow politics very much. Like, not really. I don't find it that interesting. You know, I get little snippets here and there, but it's not, I don't really, you know, keep up with. Maybe I should. Maybe that's wrong of me. Maybe, I don't know. But that's funny. A racist Care Bear. I mean, it's not. It's a little true. It's a little bit true. It's not. Oh, Yoda took that personal. I don't know. It's, well, he's just, I think it's funny. Care Bear, like the image of a Care Bear. I don't know, like, what does a racist look like, you know? But the image, it's funny. It's funny imagery. It's like, it's kind of like absurd. It's kind of an absurdly funny thing. It's not like gonna stick, you know? I mean, I'm sure people will repeat it because it is a humorous idea. Like taking the very liberal, you know, PC Care Bears, and then, you know, there's something funny about it. I don't know anything about. I don't know that he's racist though. Like, I don't think the accusation that someone's racist is funny. Yeah, and I'm assuming it just means he's white. So, and isn't he married to like an Indian woman, like a woman of Indian descent? Like, it's so interesting. Like, you can be partnered or married to, shouldn't say partnered, excuse me. He's literally married to and has children with a woman of color, but he's a racist. I don't know what a squishy is. What's a squishy? Kale Samogi asks, what do I think about race mixing? I'm not really, I don't have a opinion of, I mean, it's, it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't bother me, I guess, the way it bothers some people. It does bother me when people, like, we read the O.J. Simpson Nicole Brown marriage. We read about that. When people are with, you know, when people are with, you know, someone of an opposite or of a different race because of weird psychological issues they might have, or, but if it's a genuine relationship that happens naturally due to, life, interest, proximity, it doesn't really bother me, but it's Ruxpin, Ruxbin, Ruxpin. I always wanted a Teddy Ruxpin. I never had one. Damn it, where's my Teddy Ruxpin at? I'm an adult and I have toys. Why haven't I gotten myself a Teddy Ruxpin? I always wanted one. I'm getting myself a Teddy Ruxpin. Just y'all see. I'm going to get my Teddy Ruxpin. Damn it. She's not a POC. She's from India. So she's like a white woman from India. Well, isn't his kid, like, I don't know. I haven't looked. I really haven't looked into it. But like, I read somebody in the JLP chat today was talking about one of his kids is named, like, has an Indian name. I don't remember what it is. All right, Stacy knows. Stacy's very serious about this stuff. She was criticizing Robert De Niro's kids earlier. So she keeps up with these things. I mean, yeah, it's like, I think that in theory it doesn't really bother me, but I think it should happen naturally, I guess, to answer Kale Samogi's problem. Like, I think people should get into relationships naturally because they're around one another, or they have similar, like, they come into contact naturally. I do have a problem with people who, I'm uncomfortable with people who go out of their way to date out of their race, people who only date from certain, like, backgrounds. I find that, like, because I've known people who only date Asians or only date Hispanics or, only date out of their race. They won't consider someone from their own background. And that to me is a red flag. Like, if you only date out of your race, that means you hate your mother. Like, if you're a man, or you hate your father if you're a woman. But I don't know. It's just it's not just that either. It's not just like weird, or not even hate, necessarily, but like have weird issues. To me, it's like, okay, why are you? Because I've had that happen where somebody, like, there was a black man some years ago who was a neighbor of mine who was interested in me. And I extended him friendship, but, there was not going to be anything between us for a number of reasons. But he had told me when I knew him that he didn't date black women. He'd only, like, dated maybe 2 black women in his whole life. And he was much older than me. So it was like, that to me was like immediately, like, and also it was like one of the first things he told me as he was establishing that he was interested in me. So immediately I was like, interesting. You know what I mean? Like, that just to me was like immediately, like, off-putting. Like, so I'm not special to you. I'm just another white woman. You only go for the white women. So, like, why would I be, it's just, to me, it's just kind of, and it's not like, if somebody had dated a white woman in the past, and, like, thought about dating me again, or dating a white woman again, it's like, or happened to meet me and is attracted to me naturally. It's just like, Yeah. They never meet the definition of friends. It's always one-sided. Do you mean like men? Men and women being friends? Man, this guy, one night, I don't know, I probably shouldn't. Well, it's weird when the preference is outside of your race, Frederick. Don't you think? You know, I mean, that's to me, it's like, of course, people can have preferences, but to me, it's weird that your preference is not your own race. Because I have preferences. I mean, we're talking about like hypothetically, like for me, I'm open to the possibility of, you know, ending up with someone who's a different race than me, but I'm not, it's not my preference. My preference would be somebody from like a similar background, somebody white. You know, that would be my preference just because it's like more natural. Like there's a lot of things about it that just would run more smoothly. It just seems more natural to me. That's my preference. That is not my, it is not a requirement. It is not like a hard and fast rule. Like, oh, because this is my preference, that I would never go outside of that preference because it's not like the most important things. It's not the most important quality about someone. It's always who somebody is in their character that's going to trump anything else. But I do think it's weird. I do find it off-putting and weird when people, and it's not just, I mean, I brought up this example of somebody who was attempting to know me, but I've seen it with white people too. I've seen like white people who only date Asians, for example. That's weird. There's something going on there with every like person you date is of the same like, you know, ethnicity, and it's not your own. I think that's weird. I'm in my feeling. Okay, let's see. Batman loves Jesus is here. Hi, Batman. Yeah, he loves white women. Jesse tell you it don't matter. You're going to bring home the same man. Exactly. I mean, I agree. Super white women like Tilda Swinton. Oh my. I would not fit into that. I'm an ambiguous white, I suppose. I wouldn't be white enough for someone like that. Hurts my feelings. Frederick says, I'm insecure. I'm in my feelings because it makes me feel insecure. I mean, it does make me feel insecure. I'm not going to deny that. But I mean, it's not just that. I do think it's weird. Like, I don't want to be with somebody who's got mommy issues. Like, doesn't like, especially like if I'm going to date outside of my race, I'm going to date like a mama's boy, a man who's like hates and loves his mother in a weird way. And like what, I might end up like Nicole Brown getting beat. I'm his trophy, and now I'm getting, you know, paraded around in public and beaten the hell out of in private. I don't know. I just want to be loved for me. But ain't nobody got no love to give. I don't know. I don't know about that Irish Repub. I mean, Stacey, that's an interesting insight. And yeah, I mean, that is true. But I would rather, you know, be fetishized in other ways. Not racially. I mean, that's true. I don't know about that. I don't always agree. I was watching some Savage Moments Shout out to Get a Job. I was watching some old like Savage Moments clips from Get a Job, and Jesse had the panel on, and it was, I think, Chris, Nick, and Hake, and they were all asked, do you have unconditional love? And it was interesting because it was the way it was clipped was funny because their responses were funny too. But like, I was like, yeah, I do think I do have that, but I don't know that it's from me. I think it's from God. But if it's not unconditional, is it love? I think that's the thing too. If it's not unconditional, is it love? And then like, I mean, what is love as well? We have to like be real about what love actually is. And answer that, because it's like people are confused about what it is. They think it's like a feeling they have. And it has to go, it's way deeper than a feeling. Why would you date someone that feel they have to withhold information and how they feel from you because of how you're going to react? What? I don't know what you're responding to. Is this about me and my insecurity about the... I don't know. Call an ambulance. Hi, giggity goo. Well, they definitely would make fun of me. They'll pick anything to clown on you about. I know. My elderly black lady friend is in a wheelchair. I don't know what she gets up to when she's just around the other blacks. I know maybe they knock her out of the chair. I don't know. What about all the like black people in wheelchairs? What about Drake and like Joe from Phoenix? I don't think we can know someone enough to love them for them. But if you don't love, love is, don't you love everyone? Well, that's not true. Her family lives here, Yoda. There's black people in part. I make comments about how like white it is here, but there are black people. There's a strong black community here. It's small, but it's here. Fred says a manipulator will try to convince you being tolerated is love. That is true. But again, being of love sometimes means, demonstrating it through certain actions that you take. So, I understand what you're saying, but like, again, love, I do feel that real love is dispassionate. Real love, because I just, in my life, when I've experienced or when I've seen myself have love, it has been unconditional. It hasn't gone. And I have that generally, I think, for humanity. But then, there's the times when you focus your love on an individual because of their proximity to you or their relationship to you. But I don't know, when I think about it, it's not, the love is dispassionate, but it's obvious through what comes out of it. Frederick says, Tolerated equals unconditional. No, I don't tolerate everyone. I mean, I disagree completely, though, with your assessment, because I think you can have love for somebody and not tolerate them. You know, sometimes the most loving thing to do is to not tolerate someone. Sometimes that's the most loving thing, is to, like, I don't know, like, not put up with, their mess. If you really love them, like, I'm just saying, like, you have to be honest and truthful with them. And so if they're a liability to themselves and others, you can't really tolerate them. And the most loving thing to do is to cut them off. Oh, you're responding to me. Well, I mean, there's love in specific, though. Like, there's a kind of general love you have for humanity, for everyone. And then there's love you feel for the people that are brought into your life. And when it's those people that you choose as friends, or, what have you, those relationships, I think there's a different quality to that. And that quality is just that you know them better, or you come to see their virtues better. You see, I mean, I guess that's what it is. I want to be loved for my virtues, People run from love all the time. What are you talking about? People are very frightened of love. What are you talking about, Fred? I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that, Yoda. I have never made the claim. You've never asked that, and I've never made the claim of that. So I don't know why you're asking that. Draw art every day. I should be. I haven't been. It's probably why my life is feeling so weird. Frederick, I'm not going to argue semantics with you, Gemini. I've said my piece. It's done. Hake needs a baby. And I'm to be the one to give it to him. Really. He has not approached me with romantic intent or the intent to utilize the service of my geriatric womb, as so many people have called it. That was giggity goo. That was between Joelle and somebody else. So it wasn't. I didn't say I wanted to have Joelle's baby. I never said that. Why are you asking me that, Yoda? Why are you putting me on the spot about these kind of things? And you're just gonna, like, use it for mess and gossip. You're just gonna show up in other chats, and you're gonna misquote something just a little bit, or twist it just a little bit to make it sinister. Upsetting. It's upsetting. Yoda, please. We don't need to hear about that. I won't. Yoda, I think it's very clear that I love Hake. It's very clear he's my favorite of the gentlemen. It's very clear that I got my little crush on him. I think it's been very obvious. We don't need to do this. And I prefer that we don't. Who would I rather? It's obvious. Joel knows it too. That's why he's been so rough with me. I think he's jealous. I don't know. He's probably not. Probably nobody cares. It's all in good fun. But come on. I cook for Joel. Well, Joel only values me for my cooking anyway. Although he says I can't do it very well. He's so mean. Okay, it's not little. It's not little, Dijon Pa. I don't know. It's not. I don't know him. So it's just, it's just a little crush. It's Joel is a player. Yeah, I know he got up with Jasmine. I was like, oh, who's this little temptress? Psh. I guess I'm old news, cast off and discarded. What can you do? It's okay. Joel's going to tell you to get up out of his spot on the couch. Silly. Saved you with the cosign vote. What do you mean, Fred? What are you talking about? The cosign vote. Are you talking about the vote today? He's always picking on me in that way. He's mean. He's done it in other chats too. He a while back was like, should we mod Terri at the anchor baby? And I was like, oh God, why did you even ask me that? Because I'd just been modded at Joel's and he just wanted to get stir up the chat and he saved you. Yeah, you were being so crappy, Kale Samogi. Don't come for my mod status. Do you know what I had to do to get that mod status? Do you know what Joel made me do? Come on. Goodbye, Kale. I did nothing wrong in moderating today or any other day I moderate. I do it perfectly fine. People were like, oh, justice for Raymond, justice for Raymond. Raymond was being disgusting. He was being foul. I did nothing wrong. I timed him out. He came back. He doubled down on his mess. I timed him out longer. He was not blocked or banned from the channel or from commenting. But come on. Also, I don't know why people Joel wants more moderation on his channel. That's why he has so many mods. I think he wants a higher quality of conversation. And I think he also wants a space that's more welcoming to women. Honestly, that's the impression I've gotten from, his content. So, really, I honestly, that's why he's made the choices he has. Even his content and where he's delivering it to his audience's base, why he lets JC call in, all of that. Anyway, I don't want to talk about all that stuff. Joel can barely communicate sometimes. Well, I can barely communicate sometimes. I mean, don't you ever have moments of inability to communicate? I don't think that's fair. Yoda, you're a mean bully sometimes. You pick. And I don't agree. He has some very interesting stuff. His content's funny. too sometimes. He can be very, I don't know. He's cooking. He's doing his thing. He's doing well. I'm not like me, my sloppy live streams with that run on forever and go all over the place and get derailed, like, and don't get slapped up properly. Like, I don't know. But anyway, I need to head out. It's probably should have headed out a while ago, but we did read on and chat was interesting. So, but it is time to go. I need to get myself ready for Betty Bye. So, thanks for being here, y'all. Thanks for listening to the antidote and responding. It was fun. Um, I'll see y'all another time, probably later this week. We'll catch up. Maybe tomorrow, or I might do something else tomorrow if I'm up for it. We'll see. If not, you'll see me when you see me. All right, bye, y'all. Oh, thanks, y'all. Y'all so nice. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Take care.